highs near 50. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Kroot.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Happy Hump Day Wednesday to you, my little buddy.
Happy Hump Day, Crudy. Happy spring, the first day of spring. I am so excited. We made it. We're still alive.
Outstanding. And we got a big show, a tremendous show for the audience, Tom. Congresswoman Gwen Moore, one of our favorites, a friend of ours, your Congresswoman, joins us live in the Brady Street studio. And yes, I am here. When Gwen comes around, got to make a special trip to town.
Right on. Welcome back, Crudy.
Also, Wisconsin State Rep David Bowen, another friend of ours. He's running for the chair of the Democratic Party of the great state of Wisconsin. He will come and discuss his candidacy with us about 4:30. And I did check with him. It's official. He's running. He's in. He's in it to win it, Tom. So David Bowen, a friend of ours, will call in at 4:30 Central Time today. But Dominic, I wanted to start a little conversation close to home. This guy's been on our show a few times. Made the mistake of calling him a friend of ours, and he has not been back since. He is the Speaker of the great state of Wisconsin's Assembly. He's Robin Vos. And Patrick Marley reports at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel in Wisconsin gerrymandering case. Assembly Speaker Robin Vos, well, Boss Vos refuses to testify.
Well, that's not very law and order of him, is it?
This is a troubling story, Dom. Assembly Speaker Robin Vos is refusing to testify in Wisconsin's gerrymandering case, opening a new front in a long-running legal battle over how election maps are drawn. The Rochester Republican and his attorneys refused to accept a subpoena. How about a no-knock warrant? I'd get it served.
Pre-dawn paramilitary raids, no cigarette breaks.
Vos refused to accept a subpoena, turn over documents, and agree to have him sit for a deposition because they maintain he's immune from civil legal actions. Democrats suing over the maps filed court documents late Tuesday asking a panel of federal judges. I do take some consolation that this is what the federal courts, Dom. Vos will not be able to run roughshod over the federal courts, I suspect. But anyways, asking a panel of federal judges to force Vos to testify. I would like to see Speaker Vos compelled to testify. Here is what attorney Ruth Greenwood wrote in her filing. Assembly members, including Speaker Vos, have waived any claim to legislative immunity in this case by intervening as a defendant and actively participating in the litigation, including filing motions and discovery requests. So you can't say, well, I'm so important, I'm such a big shot, kind of a big deal.
I have legislative immunity.
Because I'm off doing very important Speaker of the Assembly stuff. But when you've, made a point to intervene in the lawsuit?
Insert yourself, yeah.
Well, it's hard to say, well, I have immunity from these lawsuits because, of course, I should not be troubled as a state lawmaker.
Oh, no, especially Speaker.
Can't compel me to be involved in legislation. Now, here is another statement. Subpoenaing Speaker Vos diverts time, energy, and attention away from legislative tasks and disrupts the important work of the Wisconsin legislature. Attorney Kevin St. John wrote in a letter to Greenwood last month. That's Vos's attorney, right, Dom?
Crudy, the dispute is the latest in a legal fight that started 8 years ago when Republicans controlled all of state government and established legislative and congressional district lines that favored their party.
Some would say the most partisan gerrymander in our nation's history, at least our modern history, Dom.
It was breaking all the records around here in Wisconsin. There have been 2 lawsuits over the maps and 1 trip to the U.S. Supreme Court. A trial is scheduled for July, Crudy. Before then, the Supreme Court is expected to issue decisions in gerrymandering cases from Maryland and North Carolina that could have major implications for Wisconsin's case. Ahead of the trial in the Wisconsin case, the Democrats bringing their lawsuit want to force Voss to give a deposition and turn over documents about drawing the lines. Greenwood noted Voss and legislative aide Adam Foles were the only 2 people who met with every GOP legislator in 2011 about the districts. The state constitution gives lawmakers immunity from civil litigation, but Greenwood argues Voss doesn't qualify for immunity because the assembly, under his leadership last year, intervened in the redistricting lawsuit, which she said makes him subject to discovery requests. She noted federal judges ruled in the earlier lawsuit over the maps that the legislature didn't qualify for immunity because it hired outside attorneys and consultants to help draw them the Republican advantage. But St. John wrote in letters to the plaintiffs that finding wasn't binding because it was a separate case that didn't name Voss. In the latest case, the assembly is a party, but Voss isn't, so he doesn't have to testify, St. John argued.
Now, Dominic, presidents of the United States can be compelled to testify in civil lawsuits. In fact, they can be sued civilly. Summer Zervos is taking this up with the president, a defamation suit.
Yes.
She claims he groped him. He called her a liar, and she's suing him for defamation. And that one's moving forward, Dom. Why? Because we've seen this before. Paula Jones sued Slick Willie Bill Clinton. Some sort of a sexual accusation against the former president, and he, of course, was sued. And that eventually led to what? Testimony that he lied in about having a sexual affair with Monica Lewinsky, a subordinate.
Yeah, the Republicans, they remember how all that went down, right?
How can Speaker Voss claim, and I get, Wisconsin immunity, but how do you claim immunity from the federal courts? What, Speaker Voss more important than the President of the United States? If Donald Trump can be compelled to testify in a civil matter, why can't Boss Voss?
I think he can, and I hope he loses. And besides of all that, why wouldn't Speaker Voss want to step up and be transparent, right? Aren't the Republicans all about transparency and open government control?
Because
limited government isn't part of that control and limitations of government, making sure that the legislative branch does what it's supposed to. Well, when taken to court, why wouldn't you view this as an opportunity, Speaker Voss, to show exactly why you did what you did and your justifications for it?
Well, I'm not going to say he's guilty of any sort of illegality, but he's guilty as hell of unethically partisan gerrymandering the maps to the point where the voters don't get to pick their lawmakers in the state of Wisconsin. The lawmakers effectively get to pick
the voters.
The voters. And it always seems to favor them at the polls.
Weird. Pack them and crack them, right?
Look at the most recent midterm elections in the state of Wisconsin. Tammy Baldwin won by what? Double digits. Leah Bookmurray, highly unlikable candidate, I would assert. But Tony Evers won statewide. Sarah Godlewski, Josh Call, Mandela Barnes, and La Follette. They all won statewide, right? Yet on the legislative level, the Democrats lost seats. How does that work? How do we lose seats? Well, I guess Robin inviting a singular pickup on the assembly side, but we lost seats in the Senate. Well, how does that happen? Very effectively drawn maps. And when I say effectively, I mean when you take them off campus and you bring in private lawyers and you sequester even the Republican parties. No one knew. The only one that knows all of the malfeasance that happened, Robin Voss. He's the singular person, singular lawmaker that was there for every step of the malfeasance. He's the only one that knew. Everybody else you could plausibly deny. You could say, well, I didn't realize just how bad it was over in so-and-so's district. In my district, it was just a modest shift.
Don't forget legislative aide Adam Foltz, also in every single
Well, perhaps
meeting with
Foltz
Voss.
may be compelled to testify. But my point, Voss knew. Voss was, in some small part, at least the mastermind, right? And of course he doesn't want to testify because to testify will expose him, I would say perhaps not just to derision, but actual political fallout. I'd like to think that even Republicans don't like when these Republicans or any other Republicans or Democrats for that matter so gerrymander the maps that they are completely unresponsive to their constituents. And how do we know that? I would say the roads and the water, because Republicans have destroyed our roads and the legislature has gone along with that. And the Republicans have destroyed our water. And they continue to sell it off to the highest bidder. And ultimately, they have destroyed good governance in the state of Wisconsin through acts like gerrymandering. And the people of Wisconsin, hell, the current governor, at least he's put forth a proposition, Dom. Let's not forget, there will be a census next year, 2020. And I'd like to think the Democrats will at least control the governor's mansion. Tony won, right? You can't get rid of Tony between now and the redistricting. So no matter how Robin Voss may huff and puff, the next decade is not going to be gerrymandered. It's not a, there might be modest gerrymandering going on, but presumably Evers will veto the maps. And then it will go to a judge or a panel or whatever, because I don't think the Republicans will get on board for nonpartisan redistricting. I don't think they'll get on board, because it favored them too greatly the last time around. And they don't think the Democrats are capable of winning back the assembly under the current circumstance. Of course, they're right, because they know there's no way in hell that they will ever win back the assembly, not under the current gerrymandered maps in the state of Wisconsin.
Crudy, Marquette University Law School polling back in January of this year talked about redistricting. Here's what Charles Franklin found. 72% of voters say they prefer redistricting of legislative and congressional districts to be done by a nonpartisan commission, while 18% prefer redistricting be done by legislature and the governor.
I don't see any support for that. That's what Scott Fitzgerald and Robin Voss will tell you, of course, right?
I don't see any support for that.
Folks, we're the devil's advocates. Hopefully there's lots of support for this fine show, and it's getting better right now. We got a fine guest joining us in the Brady Street studios. Congresswoman Gwen Moore, a favorite, a friend of ours. She joins us next. Come back with us, Devil's Advocates, WRRD 1510 AM, WTTN 1580 AM. You're listening to the good stuff.
I spent the last few years building up an immunity.
If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment?
And people are witnessing these crimes, and there is a concerted effort not to tell the police or cooperate with the police. That's a phenomenon we better pay attention to.
When you have your staff taking the Fifth Amendment, taking the Fifth, so they're not prosecuted, I think it's disgraceful.
It's called the Stop Snitching campaign.
You see, the mob takes the Fifth.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. That's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only ordering classic corner tavern.
Listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson joins us on the phone regarding our military influence. Aren't we selling arms right now to Saudi Arabia, and aren't they using, munitions that they have purchased from us in their war?
And if we weren't doing that, because they've got plenty of money, they'll buy less precise munitions from other people, and the bloodshed would be worse.
Well, the blood might be on someone else's hands then, Ron.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about that, Ron.
Grass-fed, locally raised, 100% organic. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube and Facebook. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio. And if you miss any of this fine program, please go to the website, domandcrute.com. You can download interviews and podcasts.
Dominic, I am so happy that we've been joined by Congresswoman Gwen Moore, a favorite. And Gwen, what I love about you, and there are many things, but you're never afraid to sing. You have joy in your heart, Gwen Moore.
I calculate how many votes I can afford to lose. So if I only sing one verse, that is how I manage the risk of not losing too many voters.
You have a window of one.
That's right. So they think it's cute,
Gwen.
But then I have a friend says that, my God, you sang that song in every key.
I think the last time I heard you singing, prior to coming on air today, Gwen, the Scott Kevin Walker Blues.
That's right.
Barack Obama, North Division High School. That was a hell of a fun day as well, Gwen.
That was.
You're singing, Gwen. I know he's sung a few times in public himself.
Well, he sounds a little bit better than I do. So
I'm not sure that's true, Gwen.
So what your mom said, Crute, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
Well, Gwen, I got to ask you, were you doing a happy dance? Did you sing a song, DNC MKE 2020? When we were so pumped.
I swear, I almost got inappropriate. I almost kissed Tom Perez in the mouth when I saw him. It was like, oh my God, this was such a good decision. And I know it was a lot of pressure for him because, people like to put Milwaukee down. And, Florida commented that Milwaukee wasn't fancy enough for this convention. But, we've got our brats, we got beer, we got cheese curds. We're going to have the largest celebration of Bastille Days in our country, I think, here. Summerfest. And they're going to, and, Milwaukee is very friendly. But above and beyond that, this is the place where people died, blood was shed for the 8-hour workday. It's a place where we had AFSCME. The union was born in Wisconsin. I mean, the Wisconsin idea. So you got fighting Bob LaFollette here, but the ideas around Social Security, unemployment compensation, bills being written by nonpartisan legislative services instead of by lobbyists. Those ideas were born right here in Wisconsin.
Well, Gwen, don't forget the socialist mayors, as all the Republicans are reminding us.
I cannot forget that we have that particular DNA right here in Milwaukee. And as we see our democracy sort of slipping away from us, and union rights and Oregon, this is the best place in the world to have the convention. And not to mention the fact that when they were here, I invited them in July to take a deep breath. And I said, that stuff you feel inside your lungs there, that is air versus hurricane waters, sweat they're going to have a fantastic time. And it's something that could bring a couple $100 million of economic benefit. My goal is to try to make sure we have a contingency workforce, and so that Hispanics, African Americans, small business people can really have an opportunity to benefit financially as well, because there are going to be a couple thousand other sorts of events outside of the Fiserv Forum, and it's a yeoman's task, but I want to lean into that. And it'll put Milwaukee on the map, not just nationwide, but internationally. I mean, we're a brand that we get to roll out again and again and again. And of course, when you think of the convention, when you think of all the numbers of people, and for all I know, someone else has jumped into the fray since I've been sitting here. I'm making an announcement. I'm not running right here on the Devil's Advocate program. All right.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. I'm not running for president, although everybody else is. But I think, honestly, we could easily find ourselves in a brokered convention. This could be a historic, exciting convention.
The most important convention of our lives, perhaps. Gwen, I don't know, Congresswoman, if you ever watch South Park. But I watch South Park occasionally, and they have this one episode, The Underwear Trolls. And it's steal the underwear is step one.
Okay.
And step 3 is profit. But no one can quite figure out what step 2 is. And the way I see it, Gwen, here's the analogy. Step 1 is DNC Milwaukee 2020.
Right.
And step 3 is profit. But I think there's a lot of people in this community right now trying to figure out what step 2 is. After we steal the underwear, Gwen, how do we make the money?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. There are a lot of businesses. I was shocked to discover Tom Perez said that Milwaukee business community made more hard commitments for this convention than did Houston and Miami.
Like doubled it.
I mean, that was totally shocking. But I do think that it's extremely important to make sure that we have a contingency workforce, that we lean into deliberately trying to make sure small businesses get a piece of it. Otherwise, they just won't. I mean, the Fiserv Forum or restaurants in the nearby area, I mean, it's no-brainer. We got to go out of our way to make sure the economic impact spreads.
Come back with us, Congresswoman Gwen Moore, one of our favorites, more Devil's Advocates right here in the Brady Street Studios, 1.2 miles away from the convention site.
If you missed something on the Devil's Advocates, don't worry. After you get over your shame, you can check out domandcroot.com. Podcasts and interviews updated
I'm a 40-year-old
daily.
man that walked in there to get his high school diploma. It was very hard for me, but Miss Araceli, she gave me direction.
At age 47, Marco finished his high school diploma.
50% of getting your high school diploma is walking through those doors. The other 50% is doing the work.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. That means it could be you, your best man, your worst man. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org to know where you stand. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
5 Nines, your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 5nines.com.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
The Devil's Advocates.
James Santel, he's a former U.S. attorney. He's our guest live on Brady.
Once again, a pleasure to be with you, gentlemen, to talk about the latest news breaking as we speak.
The FBI raided Michael Cohen, Trump's personal attorney, but once they got there, then they went back and got a more thorough warrant and said, we'll take everything.
My first reaction is you need to teach criminal constitutional law. You've got it just right in terms of the process.
They are kind of a big deal.
This is a really big deal.
For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. A man who was found sleeping in the Fine Arts Building at UWM was shot and wounded by campus police yesterday morning. The Bucks beat the Lakers last night, 115-101. They go to Cleveland tonight to take on the Cavaliers. The Brewers picked up veteran reliever Josh Fields yesterday. Opening day is 1 week from tomorrow. And two of the biggest names on the Packers roster have parted ways with the team. Clay Matthews has agreed to a deal with the Rams, and Randall Cobb is joining the Cowboys. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison tonight, cloudy with a slight chance of rain, lows in the low 30s. Tomorrow, cloudy in the morning, sunny in the afternoon, highs near 50. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
When your legs don't work like they used to before.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal,
And I can't
only
sweep
politics.
you up off your feet.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We've got a fine guest in the Brady Street studios. She is Congresswoman Gwen Moore. She's a friend of ours, and we are playing her request today.
Yeah.
This isn't on Dom's rock and roll list. I like this kind of music. I like it when it slows down, but Dom only like power ballads. That's all I can do. Gwen, we were talking about the DNC, and of course, this is a really big deal, hopefully for the city of Milwaukee. What do you think happens when they get to Milwaukee? And, you know, quite frankly, there will be a lot of scrutiny on the city. And while it's great news that they're coming, and we hope for lots and lots of upside to the economic activity, Gwen, this city is not always, it's not all great. There are some aspects of the city that, you know, may not want to be scrutinized by the national media, and there will be tons of scrutiny. I hear it often. Most segregated northern city. Do you think that's a fair criticism of Milwaukee, and do you think Milwaukee will use this event to either amplify what could be current problems and seek solutions? What do you think is going to happen to the city of Milwaukee?
Well, Dom, thanks for that. I mean, Milwaukee is one of the most segregated cities in the country. It's a bad place for African American children, and I think that that's one reason I want to be involved in making sure that some of that $200 million trickles down. I think it'll build goodwill for our citizens to be able to participate. But also, they're going to build a perimeter for the convention. And it would really be good to try to make sure that some of the delegates will have an opportunity to come out and see parts of the city that they otherwise would not be able to avail themselves of. For us to create platforms and activities, and be intentional about getting people to other places. Because, you know, the other side of it is this is one of the most diverse communities in the state and certainly in the country. I mean, we've got great assets here. And as the Congresswoman, I get to hang out with the Poles and the Serbs and the Germans and the African Americans and people of Hispanic descent, our Asian. We have a lot of assets, and we can really create that kind of ambiance. I mean, I can't wait. When the DNC selection committee came here, we showcased our babies, our children, our talented kids, our Hispanic children that played the violin for them as they marched into Northwestern Mutual, our African dance companies, our Hmong children. And we're going to use our kids, those resources, to really showcase our diversity. And so this is our opportunity to introduce the Milwaukee that we want, prospectively.
Obviously, Donald Trump won this state, and it was somewhat tragic that night. And I still remember the hangover, Gwen. But ultimately, the hangover, it's still here. Our nation is living under Donald Trump, and we do not want to see that happen again. And I think everyone in this room shares that sentiment. And there seemingly is two schools of thought on winning the state of Wisconsin. And the DNC has obviously put their biggest chip on Milwaukee. I don't think they could have shown a much bigger commitment to what will be a battleground swing state. But the two schools of thought, as I see it, Gwen, is A, you got to turn on African-American voters in Milwaukee. And Hillary did not do that nearly as well as Barack Obama did. And of course, part B, depending on who you talk to, it's the disaffected white males out state who feel lost in the current economy. And they apparently, jumped on the Trump train. So, Gwen, we are not a homogenous state by any means. But how do you think we ultimately turn the state blue again and make sure that the reign of Donald Trump ends at the ballot box, if not before?
Well, I want to thank you so much. I think for your observations. One of the things is that I think people really saw the difference when we unseated Scott Walker. They saw what their own personal power could bring. And I think that it's a lesson learned for politicians who don't show up to campaign and ask for people's votes. I just want to point out that Barack Obama, as popular as he was, beloved and charismatic as he was in both 08 and 12, he was in Wisconsin 24 hours before before the polls closed. And so lesson learned, this is a purple state. You have to ask people for their vote. I do think that pollsters are demonstrating to us that folk here in Wisconsin who may have voted for Barack Obama twice and then voted for Trump are sick and tired of him. I mean, they have seen, if they're not convinced, I want to use this platform here, devil's advocate, to tell people how he has let the good white folk down. As Trump brags about unemployment among African Americans. I mean, here's a guy who wants to cut $500 million out of Medicare over the next decade. $1.5 trillion. I'm sorry, this with the T.
With a T.
$1.5 trillion, 12 zeros. Out of Medicaid. And I mean, if you don't have to, you're disaffected. If you live in West Virginia in the coal mines and black lung disease, I can't think of anybody who needs Medicaid more than you do. And these tariffs are killing our farmers in the rural areas here in Milwaukee. We had all these folks driving on their Harleys to land on the White House lawn and to greet Trump. These tariffs are killing Harley. They're killing our farmers. He's reneged on everything he said he would do. He said he wouldn't touch Social Security. You know, his budget just came out. He's got about, $85 billion. He's planning on cutting out of Social Security.
But do the Trump supporters, do you think they realize that? I mean,
well,
it doesn't seem like those kinds of talking points are getting a lot of traction on the right, Gwen. Do you think it's willful ignorance or just not getting the message?
We're starting to see tax returns come in.
Yeah,
People
right.
are calling my office. They're getting, those who are still getting refunds are getting $20 extra. People are calling saying, this is the first time I've not gotten a refund. Where are people's $4,000 increase in their wages? I mean, the proof is in the pudding. We have between now and 2020 to see that the only promise he's willing to keep is building that wall, and he's not going to even make Mexico pay for it. He's not even willing to keep that promise. And so I can't think of anybody who is harmed more. When I think of prescription drug prices, we're supposed to have the best health care ever. Here's someone ranting and raving, berating, speaking ill of the dead of John McCain, who voted against repealing Obamacare, and yet people cannot afford health care. These same folk who voted for Trump, he is proposing to worsen your situation. So we're just going to have to continue to tell people. Let me just look at, I got a little cheat sheet here. Just some of the promises that he didn't keep.
Gwen,
save Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security without cuts. Have to do it. Mexico is going to pay for the wall.
That's right. All of his. Oh, you guys got a lie machine.
Beautiful, clean coal.
Yeah. And so that's what I'm saying. So they all of this money that we have given to corporations, it's going to be $2 trillion just in debt service over the next 10 years, paying for these tax cuts. And I mean, 85% of the benefit went to corporations and their shareholders. You did not get your $4,000 a year increase in your paycheck. And of course, that's only temporary, because your money is needed to pay for these corporate tax cuts. And I tell you, the last time that we had inequality like this in the United States was before you were born, Crew, and that was when we had the Great Depression. And I can tell you, inequality of the kind that we're experiencing is the canary in the coal mine with regard to a failing economy. Next year, when all these candidates are running, we're not going to have a great economy. It's not something that I'm wishing for, but I'm looking at the economic trend. And we've had a sugar high from these tax cuts, but the benefit of that tax cut is going to dissolve about as fast as a sugar cube dissolves in your hot cup of tea.
I noted the Fed did not raise rates today, and I don't think it was just to simply keep Donald Trump off their ass.
Well, they lowered the projections to just over 2% for GDP. Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates. Congresswoman Gwen Moore, my congresswoman, joins us in studio. Gwen, one of the lingering issues here in Milwaukee, I jumped on your webpage, and you have a banner on the top of your webpage where people can go and get information about lead in the pipes.
Yeah.
And I know there's some progressives out there, some folks out there that are thinking, well, all this money, all this activity with the DNC, that's great, that's coming to Milwaukee. But much like Flint, when we were there for the debates, we have our own lead pipe problem here in Milwaukee. Congresswoman, do you think that we are doing enough, or what more can we do to rectify this problem, especially given the light that's going to be shining on this state and this city for the next couple of years?
Well, interesting that you mentioned that, because I literally just left a meeting with our brand new health commissioner, Jeanette Kowalik, just a moment ago to ask her about the very thing. Just sort of do my due diligence to make sure that we're doing everything that we can. Of course, I'm doing my part in Congress, trying to make sure that the Clean Water Fund and the revolving loan fund, that they remain whole. I mean, every year that I am there, I prioritize infrastructure improvements for water. But she made a point that is really solid, that our community is an older community, and we're not going to solve it just by the lead laterals. I mean, that's a huge, expensive project. But the other reality is that the housing stock is old and is full of all this lead paint that needs to be remediated. And we got to have a strategy and a plan for that as well. And so one of the mistakes I think that we've had in the health department was to have people who were physicians. And of course, it's very good to have someone who has that training. But what we really needed was an administrator. Like the one that we have now, somebody that can sort through the grants that we have, that can administer the grants. One of the problems that we had is that we had a person who was fired and is continuing to appeal his firing, who was too stringent with the guidelines for helping homeowners remediate their property. So we could have pushed a lot more money out of the door through our HUD program. And I begged them, please don't pull the money. Please give us a chance to rehabilitate our program here. And so we need, number one, we need a strategy and money for these lead laterals. We need money to help homeowners connect to the lead laterals, and we need to fix the problem with lead paint, that hazard. And so the health commissioner says that she wants FLAC and numbers of these other organizations to come together. We need a Marshall Plan, and we need a 10-year plan on how we're going to remediate lead in our community.
Gwen, does that happen state, local, federal? What level is the solution coming from, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, it can't be done with just our tax base here. I mean, part of the discussion has got to be around getting federal money. There's not enough money at the state level. It's only a smidgen. This is one of the issues that I raised. I'm a new member on the Committee on Ways and Means. And when we started talking about infrastructure, number one, water is kind of an outlier. I mean, when people talk about infrastructure, they're talking about roads and bridges and the gas tax being devoted to those kinds of things. So we do need an infrastructure bank. We need to figure out how to use bonding and other sorts of investments to really create the capacity all over the country. This is not just Flint and it's not just Milwaukee. We need a plan and we need an infrastructure bank.
That is Gwen Moore, Congresswoman Gwen Moore. Do we have you for one more segment, Gwen?
Yeah,
all right.
Outstanding.
Why not?
More with Gwen Moore. She's a friend of ours. I'm always happy when you come around, Gwen. You make me feel happy.
They don't let me out much.
We don't let them out much either. Come back with us. You're listening to The Devil's Advocates, WRRD 1510 AM, WTTN 1580 AM. A fine congresswoman from the great city of Milwaukee, great state of Wisconsin. Gwen Moore, more devils, more Gwen on the other side.
Oh, darling, place your head on my beating heart. I'm thinking
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
I can't believe he found them.
He seems sorry.
We very clearly told him not to look up there.
I'm honestly impressed that he was able to do it.
Right? What, did he balance on that big chair?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he'll just know what his gifts are this year.
I really thought we had hidden them well.
If they can find their presents, they can find a gun.
911, what is your emergency?
Every day, 8 kids and teens are unintentionally killed or injured by loaded and unlocked guns. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and End Family Fire.
When you shop Goodwill, you don't just bring home a vintage dress or cat lamp. You bring home so much good to your community because everything you buy funds local job training and more. Goodwill, bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Knowing your breasts can save your life. Go to knowyourgirls.org for the facts you need on breast health. Brought to you by Susan G. Komen and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates. They refuse to do math on the radio.
Dr. Michael Hicks, professor of economics, director of the Center for Business and Economic Research at Ball State University. This is troubling math all the way around. According to your mathematics, Michael, when do you think the great state of Wisconsin will get paid back on its investment?
Right. I mean, the answer is the answer is never.
Well, I'm singing this song 'cause Scott done me wrong. I got the Scott Kevin Walker blues.
The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing. Hashtag Walker bashing.
'Cause I got the Scott Kevin Walker.
Oh, yeah.
I say, who is that? Horrible.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. That is, and next to me and singing is Congresswoman Gwen Moore in studio with us. You can check us out on YouTube and Facebook. Certainly go to the website, download, and listen to podcasts later at diamondcroot.com.
Gwen, you've had some recent really good news. A grandbaby, March 11th.
Great grandbaby.
Great grandbaby. I'm an uppercase G, y'all.
Wow. So how many grandchildren and great-grandchildren,
I have
Gwen?
3 grandchildren. And my granddaughters are 25 and 27. Then they have 1 child apiece, 2 girls. So this new baby is Chloe Imani. I call her Imani. And she was born March 11th. Same day we found out about the convention.
Nice.
And so this
was a happy day.
That was a happy day, that day. So yeah, but here's the problem.
I think the great-grandbaby should have been named in honor of Tom Perez that day.
That's right. That's right. I should have named her Tommy. But here's the problem. I have to buy water because she's a week old. She can't drink. She, her mother lives in an old house with the lead laterals and lead pipes, and I have, we have to buy water. And so this is a problem that needs a community solution. I do think when we start talking about stuff like climate change and quality of air, quality of water, people are always looking at it as an expense. But really, we can create economic opportunities out of it, and even healthcare, because cleaning up our environment it will provide tremendous opportunities for people here, making batteries, making solar panels, and we ought to lean into that. Here we live on a great lake, a great source of fresh water, and so instead of always talking about how we're the Rust Belt of the region. Now, this is an asset that we're starting to monetize, our fresh water. And so I think that, We got Marquette University, my alma mater. They have a law program, a water law program. UW Milwaukee has the Fresh Sciences program. We've got a lot of research on getting rid of invasive species. I know that a big part of my stewardship is fighting to make sure that the Great Lakes Preservation Project is continued and restoration project is funded. And if you look at just the Great Lakes region, I mean, that if you looked at it like it was a country, it would have the GDP be in the top 5 in the world. And so we have a real tremendous asset here in Milwaukee. And this convention is going to be a great opportunity to showcase that.
Gwen, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you about your own health. How are you feeling?
Oh, let me tell you, I am doing well. But I thought it was really important to share with people my diagnosis of cancer. And the doctors told me, Gwen, if you just gotta have cancer, if you just can't avoid it, you've got the type that anybody would want because it's truly manageable. But the reason that I wanted to talk about that, because I realized that 80% of our, of our neighbors get their health insurance through their jobs. And the Affordable Care Act, people think of it as, it's health care for all those old poor people and all those people who are too lazy to go to work and we don't care. But no, the Affordable Care Act is the kind of thing that's going to keep me alive for a long, long time, 40 more years, people. Why? Because they can't throw me off of my health insurance simply because I have cancer. The Affordable Care Act, Obamacare provided for that. They can't raise my rates and my premiums so high beyond community rating and beyond age rating. Obamacare created that. They can't cap the amount of benefits that they are willing to give me over a lifetime. I have medicine that costs $18,000 a month.
Wow.
They can't force me to pay out-of-pocket costs beyond a certain point. All of that happened because of Obamacare. Thank you, Obama.
Gwen, if you're feeling that healthy and strong, are you sure you don't want to reconsider and run for president? You'd get 2 votes, 2 endorsements on day one.
I knew the truth would come out that you guys don't really like me.
Gwen Moore, she is our guest and also doing a congressional cafe at Mitchell Street Library coming up this Saturday, the 23rd, 10:15 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. If you can't get enough Gwen Moore, please go check her out then.
Oh, that's true. And they're also having a... the health commissioner is having something on water.
We'll try to share that at the top of the hour. Gwen Moore, thank you so much.
Thank you,
all right, thank you guys.
Come back. More Devil's Advocates. Hour 2 is next.
We gotta vote for Tony Evers and get rid of the Scott Devin Walker Blues. One more time.
If politics is boring, you're doing it wrong. Check out more at DomandCroot.com.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Trump slams McCain. Let the public see it. I'm Mike Moss. President Trump opened a rally in Ohio today with more criticism of the late Senator John McCain.
John McCain received the
a fake and phony dossier. Do you hear about the dossier? It was paid for by crooked Hillary Clinton, right? And John McCain got it. He got it. And what did he do? Didn't call me. He turned it over to the FBI, hoping to put me in jeopardy.
Georgia Republican Senator Johnny Isakson tells Georgia Public Radio Trump has gone too far.
It's a damaging situation. If my kids started talking about John McCain was not a hero, or because he was a prisoner of war didn't make any difference, or things like that, they'd have a serious conversation with me, and I would have it with them.
Isakson says he'll deliver, in his words, a whipping to the president on the floor of the Senate next week. British Prime Minister Theresa May continues to lobby for an extension of the UK's Brexit plan to withdraw from the European Union.
I am not prepared to delay Brexit any further than the 30th of June.
The Parliament has yet to approve a plan to manage Brexit. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell says he'd like to see more Americans working.
If we can bring more people into the labor force and give them a chance to contribute to and benefit from our overall prosperity, that will be a great thing for the country.
Powell says economic growth is slowing and the Fed will likely not increase interest rates again this year. President Trump says he believes Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report should be released to the public, but he disparaged its very existence today as ridiculous. New Jersey police officer Kari Manzi answered a 911 call for Ryan Paul's missing teddy bear. He says his training in autism response helped him handle it and find the missing teddy bear. On Wall Street, the Dow was down 141 points.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance, reminding you that when you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund. Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance, reminding you that when you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
The Devil's Advocates.
Doug from Cudahy.
Right around the time of the uprising, I found you. I started listening, and 2 years later, after I signed the recall and voted, we went out to sing along with the singers on my birthday. And they were so cool, and it's one of the greatest memories that I had. And ever since I started listening to the Devil's Advocates, I have been woke. I haven't missed one vote since. You guys have really done wonders for our community, and I'm just so happy you're on the air.
Making radio great again.
Message and data rates may apply.
Google has been slapped with another major fine by the European Union.
1.49 billion euros.
That's about 1.6 billion in U.S. dollars. The EU's competition commissioner Margrethe Vestager says Google continues unfair business practices and violating the EU's antitrust rules when it comes to search results and unfairly restricting its competition from placing ads on websites using Google search products. This is the third major fine in 3 years.
In June 2017, we fined Google for its illegal behavior in comparison to shopping services. And in July 2018, we fined Google for its illegal behavior relating to the Android mobile operating system.
The total fine's now nearly $9 billion. Jim Roop, Los Angeles.
A viral photo of an all-women firefighting crew is helping motivate a new generation of girls to believe they can also attain their dream. The Mountain View, California Fire Department is making history by allowing 3 women to work together for the first time ever. The photo has drawn attention.
1 in 3 adults in America have pre-diabetes, but most don't know it. To let people know it can be reversed before it becomes type 2 diabetes, professional basketball player Julius Randle is doing everything in reverse.
I'm only dunking with reverse windmills. I drove the whole way to practice in reverse. I don't recommend it. This move's called the reverse shuffle. I do recommend it. And it took me months to learn how to speak in reverse, like this. Here's 10 almost for diabetes type 2 with living Ben has mama. In other words, my mom has been living with type 2 diabetes for almost 10 years. So together, we want to say to the 84 million Americans at risk, exercise and healthy eating can help reverse pre-diabetes. Start by taking a simple 1-minute risk test.
For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. A man who was found sleeping in the Fine Arts Building at UWM was shot and wounded by campus police yesterday morning. A handwritten note complaining about a lack of care was found in the cell of the inmate who died Sunday at the Milwaukee Secure Detention Facility. And the Wisconsin Supreme Court voted yesterday to give a group of Milwaukee County employees nearly $7 million in pension benefits. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison: tonight cloudy with a slight chance of rain, lows in the low 30s. Tomorrow cloudy in the morning, sunny in the afternoon, highs near 50 degrees. For Friday, sunshine with highs in the low 40s. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back, our 2 Wednesday edition of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Thank you to our most recent guest, a fine one, Congresswoman Gwen Moore, a favorite. And I don't mean to speak out of turn, but she serenaded us during the commercial break with a stunning rendition of the Scott Kevin Walker Blues. Now, I'll try not to torture you, but I love when she sings it. You know, she's self-deprecating, but I think it sounds damn good when she sings that song.
And, you know, I think a lot of people can relate to the sentiment being, you know, presented. We all get it. We all had it. And now we don't. I feel so good.
I'm glad that she feels in good health. Obviously, living with cancer, that's quite an accomplishment. Above and beyond that, super smart, super dynamic. I love when she comes in the studio, Dom. You know, I always like really smart females. I basically got through college and high school cheating off the work of really intelligent females.
Your white male privilege is showing, Curdy.
That, and I'm quite tall. I could look over shoulders. Dominic, I'm actually trying to turn our attention to a piece at the Washington Post. Jennifer Rubin writes, Elizabeth Warren has done her homework. Why hasn't Dominic?
I do occasionally.
Actually, as the headline reads here, why hasn't everyone else?
I see the segue you were going there, Curdy. I'm with you, man.
Work with me.
All right.
Senator Elizabeth Warren and Beto O'Rourke couldn't be more different. She's from Massachusetts, is a natural teacher, and is brimming with solutions to just about every problem you could imagine. She raised kids, went back to college and law school later in life, helped create a consumer protection agency, and got reelected to her second term in the Senate in 2018. O'Rourke is from Texas, is a natural schmoozer and performer, and is lacking definitive solutions to much of anything. He's more likely to say, we should consider that, or we should have a conversation about that, than to actually have an answer and tell you what he wants to do. He's been on his city council, served 3 House terms, and lost a Senate race. The sad reality is that O'Rourke is in a much better position to win the nomination than Warren right now. He's a perfect fit for the celebrity political era in which we live, has lots of free time to campaign, can raise gobs of money, and hasn't yet to be seen losing a one-on-one confrontation with the president. His main problem is the nagging sensation that there might be no there there. Well, here's a solution. Just like O'Rourke apparently leaves most of the child care to his wife, he can leave most of the policy creation to Warren. Maybe he can make her his vice president. O'Rourke has said he would like to run with the woman, but in any case, he can certainly lift her ideas. Hey, it would be the first time a man claimed credit for a female colleague's work.
Ain't that true?
I've done it my whole life. If someone asks about Medicare for all, or Rourke on his own would talk at length to confirm that, yes, sirree, healthcare is important. A solution, question mark? He now sometimes references another bill in Congress introduced, I kid you not, by two Democratic women, Reps Rosa De La Roa of Connecticut and Jan Schakowsky of Illinois, but still spend scant time explaining how it works. So why not lift from Bourne? Or Rourke would sound so much more presidential if he said something like this. Now, Rubin quotes from Warren at length, right? And I want you to read it. I want you to do my work.
Right
the
now,
heavy lifting little guy.
Right now, Democrats are trying to figure out how to expand health care coverage at the lowest possible cost so everybody is covered. Republicans right this minute are out there trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act. They've got a lawsuit pending down in Texas where they're trying to roll it back. What they couldn't do with a vote, they're trying to do with the courts. The Department of Health and Human Services every day is doing what they can to undermine the Affordable Care Act. So when we're talking about health care in America right now, the first thing we need to be talking about is defend the Affordable Care Act, protection under the Affordable Care Act. Then part two, let's make the improvements that are what I think of as low-hanging fruit. For example, let's bring down the cost of prescription drugs across this country. We've got lots of ways we can do that. We can import drugs from Canada where the safety standards are the same. That would cut costs dramatically. We can negotiate the prices under Medicare. That would cut costs dramatically. And I've got a proposal to help bring down the cost on generic drugs, which could be about 90% of all prescriptions. So let's get those costs down. And then you know what you're going to hear from a consumer advocate. And that is we need to hold insurance companies accountable. And that means no tricking and trapping people on those insurance contracts. And then we talk about Medicare for all. There are lots of different pathways. What we're all looking for is the lowest cost way to make sure everybody gets covered. And some folks are talking about, let's start lowering the age, maybe bring it down to 60, 55, 50. That helps cover people who are most at risk and can be helpful, for example, to the labor's plans. Some people say, do it the other way. Let's bring it down from everybody under 30 gets covered by Medicare. Others say, let employers be able to buy into the Medicare plans. Others say, let's let employees buy into the Medicare plans. For me, what's key is we get everybody on the table on this, that labor is on the table, that people who have to buy on their own, everybody comes to the table together. And we figure out how to do Medicare for all in a way that makes sure that we're going to get 100% coverage in this country at the lowest possible cost for everyone. That's our job.
Now, back to Jennifer Rubin's writing. That was Warren's answer at a CNN town hall on Monday. On ethics reform, question mark, O'Rourke could endorse Warren's plan. Housing, Warren's plan. Taxes, you guessed it, Warren's plan. Maybe this would seem a tad goofy, but it would be no more preposterous than picking a president who entered the race without coming up with a detailed, thoughtful policy agenda for grave national problems. O'Rourke feels the need before giving his answers to hear what everyone has to say. And in parentheticals, Rubin writes, any student slacker worth his salt will recognize a good stall and an excuse to peek at the other's answers when he sees one. And back to the main body of the piece. He appears to think voters will come up with the ideas rather than to look to professional politicians running for president for thoughtful responses to their questions. Again, in parentheticals, when he asks what they think, clever ones might retort, we should have a debate about that. Presenting oneself to the voters as a unifier to heal the country, I'd argue, requires one to bring along the ideas around which he proposes we should rally. Otherwise, the uniter isn't leading, he's following, and worse, hasn't done his homework. We are very, very early in the race, but this gap between ambition and content nevertheless rankles, perhaps more than usual, because we just elected a president who didn't spend the time to formulate realistic policy and didn't have the good judgment to listen to smart policy leaders. It hasn't worked out. Now, I don't doubt for a moment that O'Rourke is more informed than President Trump and more capable of finding experts to serve should he be elected. So why didn't O'Rourke do his homework as Warren did? And why is he essentially stalling for time until he can come up with something? It would be a great question to ask him the next time he hops onto a counter near you. So writes Jennifer Rubin at the Washington Post.
Great question, and I'm glad you asked it. I think this is a good perspective by Jennifer Rubin. And, you know, you look at this Hollywood, I don't want to say Hollywood, this rock star kind of status, you know, the way, the attractiveness of some of these candidates like Beto O'Rourke. I mean,
I can't help that I'm sexy.
Beto was what, 3 2-year terms and a lost Senate race.
6-year congressman. Yes.
And he lost
and he
Senate
lost
race.
to Ted Cruz.
And, you know, and my first instinct is, well, how are you qualified to be president? But of course we have Donald Trump as president. So how can we really say that about anybody? And technically this job, I mean, who is qualified to be president? I mean, really, I think everybody on this earth gets
Some are more qualified than others.
Certainly. No doubt about that. But for Beto O'Rourke to stand up and say that, you know, I was born for this or I was made for this and I'm so ready for this, you know, and just him and hawing, you know, on the outskirts of policy. And what do you think? Now, I also go back and forth because certainly I think there's a couple different ways to look at a representative. Either you have somebody who leads, who stands up, makes their policy proposals known, stands and tries to, you know, bring the crowd along. And perhaps you have others like Beto O'Rourke maybe who wants to get a consensus, wants to find out what you think and maybe shape their policy around what they're hearing, certainly more of a representative than a leader. And I'm not clear that either one of those are a better or worse strategy. Certainly depends on the candidate. But sooner or later, you got to come up with some substance, Beto.
Wasn't the criticism of Barack Obama as a candidate early on? Said all the right stuff, soaring oratory.
Sure.
But not a lot of substance. And it allowed many of the voters to project their own expectations. Oh, Obama believes this. Well, how do you know that? Well, I just feel it, right? Hope and change, all the good stuff. Well, Beto O'Rourke is not getting himself pinned down. And it is still early enough in the race. Effectively, it is a beauty contest still. And Dominic, I would point out the polling. And there is new polling, and I'd like to share it with you before we take our break. CNN poll. It's actually Kamala Harris climbing in the Democratic race as enthusiasm starts high for both parties. An 8-point jump in support for California Senator Kamala Harris stands out in a new CNN poll conducted by SSRS that shows a field of 4 in double digits in the race for the Democratic nomination for president. Well, you can probably guess who they are, Dom, but I'm going to throw them out there. Former Vice President Joe Biden, 28%. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, 20%. Continued to hold the top slots in the large Democratic field. Harris now stands at 12% support amongst Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents, up from 4% in December. That's a nice rise. And the latest entrance into the field, the guy we've been talking about quite a bit this week, Dom. He was in Madison and Milwaukee. Former Texas Congressman Beto O'Rourke. He's at 11%. And he really hasn't said much. And he might have been better off saying whatever Elizabeth Warren says. Now, Harris's rise comes across the board. There is no major demographic group in which she lost support since December, but her gains are more pronounced among Democrats, plus 10, than independents, plus 5, liberals, plus 10, more than moderates or conservatives, plus 7, women, plus 9 for Kamala Harris, more than men, plus 6, and racial and ethnic minorities, plus 10, more than whites, plus 6. And beyond the top 4, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, the very smart one, the one who did her homework, the one that's got policy plans and options and good ideas.
And the one who has her very own nickname from this terrible president.
Pocahontas. Elizabeth Warren at 6%, former Secretary of State John Kerry, and I'm surprised they're polling John Kerry, but he's made overtures.
Really?
4%. Yeah, he's made a few overtures. John Kerry at 4%, New Jersey Senator Cory Booker 3%, and Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar at 3% round out the group, earning more than 1% support in the poll. And Dominic, if you want to be part as one of the Democratic presidential candidates, if you want to be part of the presidential debates, and they start like 2.5 months from now in June, we'll be there. At least I hope so. They have to name a place. I hope it's a legal marijuana state.
God willing.
But if you want to be on the debate stage, you have to have at least 1% support and 65,000 donors. Bernie blew through that threshold in one day. But Kamala Harris, she's got an inside track that we haven't talked a lot about. California, March 3rd, Super Tuesday. South Carolina, she went to college there. She may have her own way to surge forward and join Bernie Sanders amongst the front runners. Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. David Bowen along soon. Your call's next, perhaps at 844-967-2789.
Are you suggesting that I'm not who I say I am?
Do you know who I am?
Democracy matters, especially when it is inconvenient.
Well, who the hell else are you talking to? Talking to me?
We don't know who you are or where you're going. Who's coming with me?
Man, I don't know what the you just said, little kid, but you special, man. You reached out and you touched it by the heart.
Who's with me? Let's go! Come on!
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. It's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-266-5660. Tell him you support legalized medicinal marijuana.
No, I don't see it.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Josh Call, the candidate for Wisconsin Attorney General.
Do you think voter ID had a suppressive effect, not on 100 voters, but on thousands of voters and perhaps tipped the election to Donald Trump?
This is an issue that came up at our trial. And first of all, I should thank you guys because we actually introduced into evidence the recording of you interviewing Dale Schultz, who was talking about the passage of the voter ID law. That was one of our pieces of evidence.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates. The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We're streaming on YouTube and Facebook. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio. You can join us on the phones. There are your grievances. What do you got to say? Calls are toll-free. Talk or text at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, we've always perceived this product to be, let's call it, cannabis-friendly.
Yeah.
Hence the 420 break. And I can't wait to introduce all of our audience to a new sponsor on Friday. We got a new CBD shop.
Nice.
Very proud, very excited to have them come aboard the Hemp House. We'll talk about it Friday. But Dominic, here's a story, and this one from our backyard. It's a Wisconsin story. And it's a St. Patrick Day story.
Aww.
And it could have been a happy story, but instead it's a story about a narc. And it kind of becomes a buzzkill, and there was no reason to... I mean, this was a good news story. You know, we cover the bad news here, and we talk about this president and how god-awful he's making it.
There's enough bad news in the world. How about some good, happy news?
Well, mostly this could have been a good news story, but then, you know, the narc had to go and wreck it. Shawano County, I love it up in Shawano County. A Wisconsin woman is accused of handing out pot brownies to people on St. Patrick's Day. Wow. What a great lady.
I know. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
I wish we knew her. I wish you to stop by here. Catherine Cruz, age 57. And I would say the mugshot accompanying this
Kathleen Krause.
Kathleen Krause.
Get some glasses, man.
I do need glasses.
You're getting old.
And my eyes always get blurry around 420 down.
It's weird how that works.
I don't know what I said, but Kathleen Krause is her name. She's 57, and she was charged with delivering THC, possession of THC, and 3 counts of possession of a controlled substance.
Ooh.
The Shawano County Sheriff's Office was called to the town of Westcott on March 16th for a report of a woman handing out cookies laced with drugs. According to an affidavit obtained by WBAY, a witness said a woman in a green St. Patrick's Day hat and leather coat gave her a cookie laced with pot, and the witness turned the cookie over to deputies. Why not turn it over to the grandkids? They'd be very appreciative. You know she's got to be, I suspect, older or Trump supportive, one or the other. The deputies later tracked down Krause and reported she was visibly intoxicated with an odor of alcohol and marijuana on her breath. In other words, she was enjoying her St. Patrick's Day. They asked her about the cookies, Dom, and she pulled out a gallon-sized bag that contained cookie crumbs. According to the affidavit, officers searched her and found a container with pills and some gummy candies containing THC. The cookie and gummies tested positive for marijuana, according to the Sheriff's Office.
Oh, come on.
Dom, Krause appeared in court March 18th as a condition of the $1,000 bond.
$1,000?
She must maintain absolute sobriety, court records show.
Boo, Shawano County. Come on. If she was out there giving out green beer, everyone would be celebrating her.
I am celebrating her. She sounds like our person of the week so far.
I know. She's got a big smile in her mugshot. She looks very happy. I mean, I guess my only condition would be as long as people know that, you know, hey, this is some pot brownies or pot cookies. Enjoy.
Oh, thank you very much, stranger.
Right. Are you kidding me?
You're my newest, bestest friend.
Come on, let me buy you a green beer. Everybody would be happy.
If you have pot brownies.
Or pot cookies.
Or pot pie.
Or just pot.
Bring it on down to Brady Street. We will not narc you out. And we will have the happiest happy hour of all times. We're going to have a happy hour no matter what. Come back with us. Got a fine guest joining us on the phone. He is a named candidate for DPW chair in the great state of Wisconsin. State Rep David Bowen, another friend of ours. Stick around. Or bring us cookies, one or the other.
Or both.
We'll be right back.
Want to see the super sexiest political show on earth? Check out The Devil's Advocates on YouTube.
Hey, listen, guys. Look, I don't want to mess with no reefer addicts, okay?
Yes, but now, let's eat. Come. Good food.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. That means it could be you, your best man, your worst man. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org to know where you stand. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone.
Done.
By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
5 your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Wisconsin. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. You know, in the 7 years that Crudy and I have been doing the show, we have never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now, advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Real Resistance Radio. Market your products or services, get your message out, join the resistance. Call us at 414-635-0872. That's 414-635-0872, or go to realresistanceradio.com.
For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. The Archdiocese of Milwaukee announced yesterday that they are removing the names of William Cousins and Rembert Weekland from their headquarters and cathedral. The two former archbishops took part in the cover-up of child sex abuse. And justice in Milwaukee is the topic of a political open mic tomorrow evening from 6 to 8. The discussion will feature Mayor Tom Barrett, Supreme Court Justice Rebecca Dallett, State Representative Evan Goyke, and other government officials. The event will be held at Mobcraft Brewery on South 5th Street. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison. Tonight, cloudy with a slight chance of rain, lows in the low 30s. Tomorrow, cloudy in the morning, sunny in the afternoon, highs near 50. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
Bring it? Oh, it's already been brought in. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. I would say we're getting stronger each and every day, but apparently sometimes I have little setbacks. We would like to welcome back a fine guest, a friend of ours. He's Wisconsin State Rep David Bowen. David, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you, David.
Appreciate it.
Now, David, we understand you've made a big announcement, and for the sake of our audience, please do so again. David, what position are you running for, sir?
Hey, well, if you had a chance to hear that music from the Rocky ultimate movie of all time soundtrack, I'm running. I'm running for state chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin.
Now, I didn't mention it as part of the quick resume, but David, you've served with the Democratic Party. You've been the vice chair of the Democratic Party for what, going on 4 years now, sir?
I have.
How does that role position you and prepare you for the role you seek?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like I'm so thankful for the opportunity to be able to serve the state party and leadership for the last 4 years. I remember when Martha Lanning gave me the call saying that she believed in my leadership, that I could contribute greatly to the party, and I'm thankful for the opportunity. So it's been an interesting journey. We have gone from being the butt of everybody's jokes, right, back in 2015 when I had a chance to get voted in and then go on to the DNC and talk to all of our national partners who lost faith in us. And, they would say, hey, Scott Walker is still still running things in Wisconsin. What the heck is going on? And, to make it to where we are today, we have rebuilt our organizing infrastructure from the ground up. We've had a chance to, under Martha's leadership, be very strong in fundraising and raising resources. The partnerships that we have all across the state are running circles around Scott Walker's camp, so much so that he lost in 2018. And Tony Evers is now our governor, and Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes is the first African-American black male lieutenant governor in the state, only second to the first African-American elected statewide, Bill Phillips. And we re-elected Tammy Baldwin on a true fight for health care for everyday hardworking Wisconsinites to stay affordable and to be a real accessible tool that they can survive. We have gone from the bottom and we've made it to where we are right now. And I want to continue that success.
David Bowen, in all sincerity, what does the job entail? Do you, if you're successful, if you win the chairmanship, does the chair effectively create their own role? Do you cast how you would lead this party? How does that work, David? And how do you envision, if you're successful, how do you envision leading the party forward?
Yeah, I mean, partly there's a lot of room for you to be able to focus as the chair of the party, highlighting things that have not had the attention, had the priority as previously. And, for me and my ticket, the most diverse ticket in party history, it's really about ending parachuting, right? We have every election cycle, our county party leaders don't get as much as a voice in selecting the regional organizers that will be in their area. And, it's really about rebuilding this homegrown leadership pipeline where we can invest in the people that are already in our communities, the people that have relationships that are already organizing, and get them into the process of connecting everyday hardworking people to a party that believes in them, that believes in the issues that they care about. And that's some of the things that we want to do, but also at the end of the day, we want to, if I'm chair, I want to rebuild our reliance on small donors, everyday hardworking people that can, on average, donate $10, $20, $50 a month or a week, and continue to have folks that see that this party is theirs. And it's good to be able to have connections and to be able to raise resources with bigger donors. We definitely need those folks at the table, but we cannot alienate the fact that this party is a party at the end of the day because of our members, because of everyday hardworking people that come to the table, and they are the ones that do the hard work. And we want to continue a 365 operation where we are not taking any days off. We are constantly in the community. We are constantly on doors. We are constantly building up the power to make sure that we can implement agendas that benefit people.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. That is Wisconsin State Rep David Bowen. He is currently a vice chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, running for the chair of that organization. David, you put together a slate. How did you come up with the other members that you will be running with, and what do you think they bring to the table?
Sure. Well, the fact that our coordinated campaign in 2018 was unprecedented in the work that we were able to do. 1.8 million phone calls, 23,000 volunteer shifts, and over 250 neighborhood teams around the state. That was thanks to amazing people that were on the ground doing the work. So I had a chance to connect with folks that I know and that I have seen in action, and Tammy Wood of Sauk County. And we also have Alicia Lorta, who is a 19-year-old freshman at UW-Madison from Kenosha, and she is a youth organizer. She's done tons of actions around March for Our Lives and around gun safety and in ending family separation at the border and making sure that we can respect the people that want to live in this country that want to be in this country, that want to have access to this country, that come from other countries. So, I'm proud to have, the most diverse ticket in party history. Alicia is a young Latina ex-woman, and Tammy from rural Wisconsin, me from Milwaukee, and coming from a black urban background and being able to connect with communities all across the state much before I was ever elected. I think it's a good moment for our party to be able to see that we are the native sons and native daughters of the state that want a shot, that want a chance to be able to prove that when it comes to the leadership of Republicans that are stalling right now on Tony Evers' budget, millions of dollars that would be invested in our community, that we are the ones that they have to deal with, because we're going right to the voters, we're going right to the public, and we are building up the synergy, we're building up the organizing that and the pressure necessary so these Republican legislators cannot sit on their hands while communities in our state go without the resources necessary to be able to survive, to be able to thrive in this state, and pull ending and lowering poverty in the state as well. It's so important that we go to work, and I think we have a real shot to do that, and I'm just really thankful that Alicia and Tammy were able to step up and run with me.
David, certainly as a full-time legislator, and then if you get this, you've had the vice chair job. Are you going to be able to commit the time necessary for a 365-day operation, given the demands on your time as a legislator?
Sure. Well, there is always a joke about Jamaicans working too many jobs. And I come from a family of awesome Jamaicans who came to Milwaukee for better economic opportunity. So I appreciate the question, and I hope that question is also referred to other folks in this race who have other jobs. But I do understand that the demands that it will take for me to be able to contribute to the party in this role, it needs my attention. And I definitely plan on transitioning to this role because there will be a lot of work that will need to be done as we focus on unleashing the potential of this party, right? And really connecting with folks on the local level, the people that are the fuel that make this party go, and getting them the resources that they need.
David, I gotta look through the prism that I always look through. What about talk radio, man? You and Jonathan Brostoff, your colleague in the Assembly, you guys do the state reppin' show on an LP FM here in Milwaukee, sir. You obviously see the value in communicating with your constituency through the medium that is radio. Well, David, I got to ask you, little radio station down on Brady Street, kind of new to Milwaukee. How important is having a messaging platform? And if you are elected chair, David, how do you intend to utilize us?
Yeah, I think we had some comments from Tammy and really understand the impact of radio in rural Wisconsin. And I think there's a lot of potential there. I know it takes resources to do that. And, we'll have to make sure that we can raise the resources necessary. But it really is tied to us making sure that there is a message for the Democratic Party that cannot get lost, that cannot be overlooked, that cannot be ignored. And we have to be in people's ear. We have to be on people's cell phones, and we have to be on people's television screens. It's important for our message to be very clear. We're in a state where we actually had folks that thought it was a good idea to give $4.5 billion to a foreign corporation and actually believe that they were going to be this golden bullet to create jobs in this state. And Foxconn is a perfect example where we can get a message out that really connects and resonates with people that believe in small business, that believe in the small organizations and enterprises that make this state go, and that we can really make it clear that Democrats stand with a majority of this state where we know that there are farmers, we know that there are folks that work in industries that make the state go, and that we're behind them, and that we are not leaving them for these Republican messages to co-opt our conversation, that we are the party of working people, that we are the party that is going to fight for folks when they are down, and that we're not going anywhere.
Now, David, obviously the Democratic National Committee has placed a big chip on Milwaukee. They're holding their convention here next year. We're all very excited. You are a Milwaukee area representative. David, we know that you are near and dear to Milwaukee. And I would ask you, if you are elected chair, it seems like this community, Milwaukee, so often gets short shift. There seems to be a real sort of two parallel thoughts, sir. One is, we got to go win disaffected white voters in outstate Wisconsin because they voted for Trump. And the other school of thought, at least to my opinion, is we better turn out African Americans in Milwaukee, because when they turn out, we win elections. And if we can get them to turn out David Bowen, I suspect Donald Trump will not win re-election in the state of Wisconsin. So your candidacy, you're obviously African American, you're from Milwaukee. If you are successful, David, how much does Milwaukee factor into your platform for the next elective cycle?
Yeah, I think it's a really important point to highlight the fact that Wisconsin is the perfect mirror of the nation. The makeup of the state, the community of people that are in this state, that are in urban and rural Wisconsin, we are really that test to be able to prove if you can win. A presidential election, for you to prove that Democrats can win back state government. And to do that, you need folks in Milwaukee that have access to the ease of voting, not making it harder. You need folks in Milwaukee to be able to see a party that prioritizes the issues that affect Black Milwaukee and Latinx Milwaukee and Hmong American Milwaukee as well. There are so many things that we need to do to step up that I'm pretty sure that I would be able to prove and reinvigorate folks that really, honestly, have lost hope, that have left, and as we have made some gains and we've gotten some people to re-believe in us again, we still have a lot of work to do, and I think the face of the party has to reflect that. I think the leadership of the party and the priorities on issues have to reflect that. And I think I'm able to bring a perspective to the leadership of the party that has not been there before. But, it takes the hard work. We can't parachute in Milwaukee anymore or, throw up for a couple weeks, a couple radio commercials on community radio and then leave again. I am very honest when I say that there are folks that are really tired of that transactional politics that has taken over the efforts and the operations that we have created. And we have to move to a place where we are making and recommitting ourselves to the communities of the state, especially in Black Milwaukee, where there has clearly been some abandonment in the past. But it's not at the place where it can't be fixed. It's in a place where we actually can get it done.
David Bowen, I want to take 1 minute and look back on the last elective cycle. To my memory, sir, and I commend you for this, you were the only superdelegate in the state of Wisconsin that endorsed Bernie Sanders when the endorsement was still meaningful. And obviously, the DNC has made some hay. Tom Perez told us we've changed the process. Superdelegates are being de-emphasized in this current process. But David, this was a Bernie state. Bernie won 71 of 72 counties in the state of Wisconsin. I strongly suspect he'll be back campaigning in the state of Wisconsin. David, if Bernie seems like the overwhelming favorite, or Joe Biden, or Kamala Harris, or Beto, or any of the other candidates, will your endorsement reflect the will of your constituents, if you will? Will you have the same freedom as party chair to go out there and endorse a candidate, do you think, sir?
Yeah, I think, last election cycle in 2016, it was a really huge missed opportunity for us to be able to present an operation and a process that would be fair. And so many folks that supported Bernie that I had a chance to hear from, they really, it was really much bigger about not just supporting Bernie, but actually giving someone a fair shot. And there are so many really good candidates in this race for president on the Democratic side that we have to ensure the process is fair. And if you can't have that fairness, you lose the fact that people will believe that your party is accessible and that it's really there for the people. So I want to make sure that I'm a chair that's going to embody that. The leadership speaks volumes when you don't follow the process to allow that to happen the right way. And I really think 2020 is such a huge year. The stakes are really high, and I remember being in several situations where literally there were Bernie and Hillary folks really about to tear each other's heads off, and I was the one that put out those fires. I was the one that mediated those conversations, those arguments, and I kept people at the table so they didn't take their ball and go home. And I think we have a huge opportunity in 2020 to ensure that we are not just trying to skimp through to barely win the election. I think we have a chance to gain the majority of folks in this country that are willing to back a candidate that is not going to support what we've seen, the most divisive president in modern U.S. history that has continued to wreak havoc on our families and on our values.
State Rep David Bowen, he is a candidate for Democratic Party Chair. He's got the home field advantage. Potawatomi Casino Hotel, June 1st and 2nd. Be a delegate and support our buddy David Bowen. Thank you so much, David. Appreciate you joining us on the day, at least the first public day I've seen it in the paper, that you are a candidate for DPW Chair.
Thank you, David.
Thank you,
let me
sir.
give a shout out. 4th CD convention is this Saturday at McGovern Park.
Thank you. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only ordering classic corner tavern.
The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing.
Welcome to our good buddy, Congressman Mark Pocan. Mark, in some small part, this little radio product, the entire rationale for buying a radio station was opposition to Scott Walker. One person's telling me, be humble, Crudy. Take a day and just be humble. And another person's telling me, no, dance on Scott Walker's grave. So, Congressman, I've always admired your sage advice. Sir, what should I do? How should I react to this?
We should waltz, we should polka, and we should two-step. We should be dancing on this right now. To your credit, and I do want to give you guys credit. In Milwaukee, we have seen a shift, especially the suburban areas, from when we had just conservative radio to having you guys there. We have seen a shift in that area, and that's important because I think when people hear ideas, we do better. And I want to thank you for being there and doing what you do.
Hashtag Walker bashing.
Bye, Felicia.
gas, grass, or cash. Nobody rides for free. Dom and Crute are the devil's advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. You can join us on the phones at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, a few minutes of bonus coverage with Wisconsin State Rep David Bowen. He made an announcement. I think it went official today, maybe yesterday.
I think he tweeted it out yesterday.
Okay. Saw it in the paper today, and he joined us. We appreciate it. DPW chair, that's a natural progression, perhaps, for David.
I think so. When we found out that Martha Lanning was not going to be running again, the first person I thought of was David Bowen. He's the vice chair. He's been there for the last several years. And for me, and I'm not a member of the party, I'm just saying from an outsider looking at what someone is saying about the organization, I think he hits a couple nails. Sick of the transactional politics and wanting to be an accountable party. I'm totally down with that. I think we need to make the parties and the politicians much more accessible. It should not be a big deal when you see your legislator, be them a state legislator or a Congress person or a senator. I mean, these are the folks that we have elected to represent us. This isn't Hollywood. They should be accessible. They should be there for their constituents, and certainly I think that applies to the party as well.
My big question for David, if he's successful, if he wins, will he keep doing the local community radio gig with Jonathan Brostoff? State repping.
I don't know. I don't know how that all works.
We have talked about bringing him over to the big stick. Perhaps someday. We'll see how the election goes. The other candidate I'm aware of, Ben Wickler, the MoveOn.org person. We've had Ben on this show. Ben also running for DPW chair. I've got no strong preference at this point. I'm just glad that this party is turning a page. I think it is time. I think it needs some fresh blood, some new life. And I'm not saying that to diminish David Bowen in any way, shape, or form. He was the vice chair. I think we need a new chair, and we will have a new chair. Martha Lanning stepping aside, moving on. So it's, at this point, either Ben Wickler, the MoveOn.org guy, or David Bowen, the state rep from Milwaukee, and they both bring unique talents to the position. And right now, either way, I'm happy.
Well, and either way, no matter who wins, I think it's important to make sure the party becomes unified and not fractionalized, especially given the 2020 coming around the corner and the DNC coming to town.
Well, you know why I'm happy, Dom? The new DPW chair will be picked at a convention June 1st and 2nd. At the Pottawatomie Hotel Resort Casino. And the resort part, that's just a throw in. Come back with us. The happy hour is about to commence. And your phone calls are always welcome here at 844-967-2789.
Do you want to be a winner? All the winners I know like the Devil's Advocates Facebook page.
What's your prediction?
Prediction?
Yes, prediction.
Pain.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes. Kim, you're on the air. How are you?
I came here from Dallas. I'm white. I was kind of amazed at how segregated Milwaukee is compared to Dallas. When people move to areas because they have, quote, better schools, I've kind of learned that's a dog whistle.
Yes, it is.
Especially up here.
It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know.
Us liberals don't always see it this way, but we need to.
Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon, exclusively on Real Resistance Radio.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Trump lashes out, defense allegations investigated. I'm Barbara Cusack.
President Trump escalated his attacks on the late Senator John McCain. During a stop in Lima, Ohio, Trump said he gave the longtime lawmaker the kind of funeral he wanted, and I didn't get a thank you. Trump also weighed in today on the impending release of special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia probe report.
On the way to his helicopter, Mr. Trump urging its release while repeatedly saying Mueller was never elected.
Let it come out. Let people see it. That's up to the Attorney General. We have a very good Attorney General. He's a very highly respected man, and we'll see what happens. But it's sort of interesting that a man out of the blue just writes a report.
A report from Mueller is required by law, though it is not required to be made public. Attorney General William Barr says he'll make public whatever is in keeping with the law. Bob Costantini, the White House.
The Pentagon's Inspector General says allegations that Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan used his office to promote his former employer, Boeing, will be investigated. Correspondent Barbara Starr has more.
When he came to the Pentagon, he agreed that he would not participate in any decision-making or anything here at the Defense Department that could benefit Boeing, his former employer. The Inspector General now says they have enough information about the complaint and other information that it does warrant an investigation.
The EPA's new administrator, Andrew Wheeler, told CBS News in an interview airing today that while climate change is an important issue, most of the threats it poses are 50 to 75 years out, and it's unreasonable for the 2020 Democratic candidates to focus so much on it. Wheeler said unsafe drinking water is probably the biggest environmental threat the world faces. Last supermoon of 2019 will be visible in the night sky today, coinciding with the spring equinox that ushers in the start of a new season.
Hi, I'm Anton Capella. As Chief Technology Officer at Five Nines, I work hard to be a leader in my industry, and I know the challenges posed by changing technology. It's my priority to make sure your network is up over 99% of the time. There's no question, trying to manage your own business IT is risky, costly, and time-consuming. Don't let IT overwhelm you. Learn more about Five Nines at fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
Everybody knows somebody who's going to forget. That's my husband.
Chris, my best friend.
Mi hermano, Humberto.
But now, Wisconsin requires voters to show a photo ID at the polls before casting their ballot in the upcoming elections. So remind someone you know to remember their military ID,
Wisconsin driver license,
or free Wisconsin state ID.
There are several different IDs you can use. Visit bringit.wisconsin.gov or call 1-866-VOTE-WIS for the complete list. And don't forget to bring it.
Tráelo.
Bring it to the ballot.
Sponsored by the Wisconsin Elections Commission.
4491 Bible.
The maker of the weed killer Roundup continues to defend its product as safe after a jury sided with another person suing the company over a cancer diagnosis. Details from correspondent Jim Root.
Tuesday, a federal jury in Northern California determined that Roundup, which includes the chemical glyphosate, was, quote, a substantial factor, end quote, in Edwin Hardeman's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Phase 2 has now gotten underway to determine if Bayer, which acquired Monsanto last year, is liable, and if so, for how much.
Baltimore's mayor has sued the owners of Pimlico Racecourse in an effort to seize the horse racetrack and block the move of the Preakness Stakes out of the city. Danica Patrick will join NBC Sports' inaugural coverage of the Indianapolis 500 as a studio analyst alongside host Mike Tirico. Patrick retired from racing after last year's Indy 500. And Barbara Cusack.
No word in the English language is less convincing than probably.
Are you sure we should get matching tattoos on our first date?
Sure, and we'll probably stay together.
Probably? It's been 23 minutes since I ate. I can probably swim.
You should wait 30 minutes.
Okay, now tell me what to do. Cannonball! Cramp! Oh, I have a cramp.
I can probably hit the green from here.
Probably.
Can I get a mulligan?
Ready to go?
Hey, are you sure you're okay to drive?
Yeah, I'm pretty sober. Yeah, I'm probably okay.
Probably okay isn't okay, especially when it comes to drinking and driving. If you're drinking, call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. A man who was found sleeping in the Fine Arts Building at UWM was shot and wounded by campus police yesterday morning. Police say the man had a weapon and was shot during an altercation with officers. And a handwritten note complaining about a lack of care was found in the cell of the inmate who died Sunday at the Milwaukee Secure Detention Facility. 51-year-old William Leary was examined by the nursing staff shortly before his death. During the exam, he collapsed and had a seizure. His vital signs were found to be normal, so he was left in his cell until his cellmate called for help a short time later. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison. Tonight, cloudy with a slight chance of rain, lows in the low 30s. Tomorrow, cloudy in the morning, sunny in the afternoon, highs near 50. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the 5 o'clock Wednesday happy hour. And I am so happy people have noticed I got a sexy Natty Nation t-shirt on today. I've gotten some compliments on the Facebook live stream.
Yeah?
It's got the state of Wisconsin in the Rastafarian colors and then the solidarity hand.
And black is slimming.
It is. Which is mostly why it shows. I literally thought about that this morning. I thought, well, I'll be in studio today. I'll actually be on camera. I'll wear something slimming.
Nice.
I am working on it. I am guilty of cheating and having one caffeinated soda today. Yesterday, I got a terrible headache. I was tired.
Yeah, it's hard to give up that caffeine, man. That stuff, your body needs it after you've been sucking it down so long.
So about 2 hours ago, I had my first soda. It's still not done. I've still got about half of one.
That's your first bit of caffeine in like 2 days?
Yeah, since Sunday.
Yeesh. I couldn't do it.
I know. I went to bed at like 9 o'clock last night. I was exhausted. It's the best night's sleep I've had in quite some time, I might note. Dominic, I also would like to note, and we're going to play backyard politics just a few minutes longer. Election Day coming up in the state of Wisconsin, April 2nd. Supreme Court race, and there are some local races, but most importantly, for the broader audience, a Wisconsin Supreme Court race. And this is an important race. They're all important, but this one especially so, because we've got to hold serve. This is for the seat currently held by the retiring former chief, Shirley Abrahamson. And, of course, there are two candidates, Neubauer, and what's the other guy?
Hagedorn.
Well, here's one point I would like to make, Dom, and we're trying to do our part as a radio station, WTTN, WRRD. We have made a committed effort to try and help make people more aware, not just that there's an election, but also that voter ID will be a requirement of that election. And if you've heard them, one played over at the news break, we are running PSAs from the Wisconsin Election Commission. Again, you're going to need a voter ID to vote on April 2nd. And we're going to have the administrator, current administrator of the Wisconsin Election Commission, her name Megan Wolf. She's going to join me in Madison tomorrow in studio. And we're going to try to continue to focus on this very important race, April 2nd. And at least, according to the Cap Times editorial board, Dom, there's only one sensible choice. Judge Neubauer will be an outstanding Supreme Court justice, or so they write. As you know, the day we had Neubauer in studio, I made my endorsement. Hagedorn wasn't going to earn my vote. You knew that.
No.
So anyways, I'd like to read from the Cap Times editorial board. The most important vote that Wisconsinites will cast April 2nd is for the position on the state Supreme Court that has been held since 1976. You remember when this country celebrated the bicentennial?
I do.
That was up until 21. That was my best birthday summer ever. Former Chief Justice Shirley Abrahamson is the first woman to serve on the High Court. Abrahamson has long been recognized nationally as a pioneer in the law, but her greatest contribution has been as the court's steadfast defender of the Wisconsin tradition of ethical adherence to the rule of law. Abrahamson chose to stand in the breach as out-of-state special interests began to warp judicial elections, and then, during the tenure of former Governor Scott Walker, exploited the appointment power to turn a historically nonpartisan court towards rank partisanship. The attacks by partisans on Abrahamson were shocking. They even conspired to change the rules for selecting the Chief Justice in order to marginalize her. But Abrahamson was never marginalized. She finishes her term as an exemplar of judicial excellence, an ethical, intellectual, and courageous jurist who merges a deep understanding of the law with an equally deep understanding of the values that have historically defined Wisconsin's court. Shirley Abrahamson cannot be replaced. But voters who choose a justice who will serve in her tradition, of the two contenders in the April 2nd election, only one candidate is prepared to do that. Appeals Court Judge Lisa Neubauer, a veteran jurist who currently serves as the Chief Judge of the Wisconsin Court of Appeals. She is uniquely qualified. Indeed, because of her extensive appeals court experience, Neubauer can join the court as fully prepared and engaged member. And that's important because the court is in transition. The chaos of Walker's years seem to be dying down as the voters have taken charge and begun electing justices who treat the law more seriously than the dictates of the former governor or the corporate special interest that are aligned with him.
Crudy, the election last year of Justice Rebecca Della was a breakthrough win for those who seek to restore the court's integrity and reputation. Electing Neubauer would continue the process of restoring a sense of balance and responsibility to the High Court. As she said, "I'm running because I care about making sure our court is fair, impartial, independent, and upholds the rule of law. Now more than ever, we need our courts to protect the rights of all Wisconsinites and the fundamental principles of our democracy." This vision has secured a striking level of support for Neubauer, who runs with the endorsements of more than 300 judges, district attorneys, and sheriffs. Dane County Sheriff Dave Mahoney summed up the enthusiasm for her candidacy when he said, "Wisconsin needs a justice who will stand up for the rights of our citizens and the rule of law. Judge Neubauer will be that kind of justice." Unfortunately, Neubauer does not face a credible challenger. We say unfortunately because the Cap Times recognizes the value of an elected judiciary. We do not believe that justices should serve as high priests who are chosen in the star chambers of the political elite. As such, we look forward to spirited contests between capable contenders for judicial posts. During the course of this year's campaign, Neubauer's rival Brian Hagedorn has disqualified himself as a contender for a place on the High Court. Hagedorn spent 5 years managing Walker's legal agenda before receiving a courtesy appointment from his mentor to an appeals court, sinecure. During his time as Walker's chief legal counsel, Hagedorn admits he was serving as the top ethics officer for the administration, advising on legal policy issues, overseeing judicial and district attorney appointments, and providing legal analysis on proposed legislation. Top ethics officer, fail. Walker was tossed out of office last fall by the voters of Wisconsin, but much of what he did during 8 years of reckless governance continues to be the subject of litigation and legal wrangling. To serve as an ethical and intellectually honest member of the High Court, Hagedorn would have to recuse himself on a regular basis, yet he refuses to say whether he would stand down from cases involving challenges to Walker's policies and programs. He has even refused to guarantee that he would recuse himself from cases involving Act 10, the anti-labor legislation that was a centerpiece of the former governor's ongoing legislative assault on public employees, public schools, and public services. That's astounding, as Hagedorn helped to draft Act 10.
Do you think he would rule to uphold the legislation he helped craft as Walker's chief legal counsel?
I think that he would. Hagedorn is tone deaf when it comes to judicial ethics. There's a shocker. He gets angry with Wisconsinites who worry about his long history of attacking LGBTQ rights and groups such as Planned Parenthood. According to the Milwaukee Journal, Hagedorn has said calls for promises to recuse himself on cases involving Planned Parenthood and same-sex relationships are attacks on his evangelical Christian views. Hagedorn is no fool. He understands that Wisconsinites who have raised concern about his extreme statements and about his decision to take more than $3,000 in payments from a right-wing legal advocacy group that has supported criminalizing sodomy and sterilizing transgender people are not attacking his religion. They are worried about his refusal to recuse from cases involving his former boss, organizations that have given him money, and other ideological initiatives with which he has engaged. There are no such worries with regard to Judge Lisa Neubauer. She is an able and experienced jurist who will make an outstanding addition to the Supreme Court.
So saith the Cap Times editorial board. Once again, the headline, Judge Neubauer will be an outstanding Supreme Court justice. I share their recommendation. I share their endorsement, and I encourage you to vote April 2nd.
Bring your ID.
But you better bring your ID. Because the voter-suppressing Republicans in the state of Wisconsin, they want to make it just a little more difficult for you. So listen to the PSAs. Again, we'll reinforce what you need tomorrow. Megan Wolf will join us. She is with the Wisconsin Election Commission. We want you to be well-informed. We want you to know exactly what you got to do. Because the spring Supreme Court election in the state of Wisconsin, this is an important race. We got to hold serve, and more importantly, perhaps still, will be next spring, April 7th, 2020. We have the ability to win back the balance, the soul, if you will, of the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And we can't do that unless we do this and help Lisa Neubauer win on April 2nd. Come back with us. The happy hour continues. Your phone calls welcome here, 844-967-2789.
The most important decision you can make right now is where do you stand? Goodness or badness?
No man is above the law. No man.
Why don't you improve your lie a little, sir?
Yes, winter rules.
Oh, yes.
I'll guarantee you'll never be a member here.
Sometimes I had too many beers.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. That's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
When you shop Goodwill, you don't just bring home a vintage dress or cat lamp. You bring home so much good to your community because everything you buy funds local job training and more. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Knowing your breasts can save your life. Go to knowyourgirls.org for the facts you need on breast health. Brought to you by Susan G. Komen and the Ad Council.
It's a lot easier to measure how many times students use a semicolon correctly in an essay.
Educated educators talking education.
Than it is to measure how many wonderful ideas are in that essay.
Busted Pencils.
There is no teacher shortage.
With Dr. Tim Slecker.
There is a teacher exit.
Featuring Matt Damon's mom.
You want to know what my mom would say?
We've had an intrusion into education.
Busted Pencils Radio. Saturdays at 11 on Resistance Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
And we are back. The Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open. Let's get to them. 844-967-2789.
Paul, give me just a second. I want to self-promote for a moment more. Good of the order kind of stuff. Wisconsin Grassroots Network, they're having their big event this Saturday, Maze O'Many. And if you can't get enough Crudy, and who amongst us really can?
There's a
other
lot.
than my wife.
There's a lot to give.
She's had enough. But anyways, I will be giving the opening address of the event and then a breakout session. And all you fine grassrooters, I hope to see you there. I'll be talking, of course, about Lefty Talk Radio.
Do you know who I am?
Kind of a big deal.
What time do you start, Crudy?
I start at 9 o'clock in the morning, registration prior. I will speak first at 9 and then a breakout session where again, you know me, I'm going to talk about talk radio because that's all I really care about. And then, most importantly, for the talk radio audience, Earl Ingram's going to broadcast live, as has become our tradition, from the Wisconsin Grassroots Network event in Maze O'Many. Earl will be on the air noon to 2 right here on Saturday on WRRD 1510 AM and, of course, WTTN 1580 AM.
Nice.
And can't wait to add on Talk 92.7 FM. That's coming soon. We'll keep you posted.
Crudy,
I'm kind of a big deal. People know me.
How many hours did they give you to speak?
I think they gave me like 10 minutes, but good luck stopping Crudy. Once I got a microphone in front of me, I might go 3 hours. No, like 10 minutes of speaking and then a breakout session for, I think, an hour. So,
right.
There's plenty of Crudy to be had.
844-967-2789. Please check it out. We'll post some information on the Facebook pages.
I hope it's well attended.
Paul from Wisconsin, you are up. Thanks for calling today. Paul, what do you got for us?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. As always, Devils, I appreciate it. I'm an old man, an old guy here, and seen a lot of history.
Nobody's disagreeing with you, Paul.
That's good. That's a good thing. You're making me laugh anyway. But what the president said today about a war hero, a genuine war hero, John McCain, Trump isn't even fit to polish his boots, for God's sake. And when you think this guy can't get any lower, he does. He gets lower. This is just, you know what? I experienced the draft firsthand. I was drafted. That's all I'm going to say about it. You just do your time. This guy never did anything,
Well, he got deferments for bone spurs, which apparently was not even legitimate. Apparently, it was just a deferral. His doctor has thrown him over the bus. He wasn't experiencing bone spurs. He got a elite rich man's son deferral, Paul.
Where's the GOP on this? Where are they? What is the deal here? Are they going to speak out on this guy or whatever? I got to get off the air here because it was one thing to mock a disabled reporter and all this other stuff he's done, but this is a bridge too far anymore. John McCain's not even alive anymore, for God's sake.
I know, Paul.
Trump likes it that way, Paul. McCain can't fight back.
I'm sick of this crap. I'm sick to death of this crap. I got to go. See you later.
All right,
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
Thank you for the call, Paul, and an opportunity to transition to that topic.
My son has not forgiven, my son with autism on the spectrum has certainly not forgiven Donald Trump his transgression of mocking a disabled reporter from the New York Times.
Donald Trump is literally a terrible human being. I mean, I don't know how else I could describe it more succinctly.
Not arguing with you either, Dominic.
Brett Samuels from The Hill. President Trump on Wednesday unleashed fresh criticism of John McCain, the guy who's dead, attacking the late GOP senator for his connection to a dossier of claims about the president and Russia, his vote against a Republican effort to appeal Obamacare, and his support for the Iraq War. Trump spent 5 full minutes jabbing McCain during an official White House event intended to highlight manufacturing in Ohio. The barbs mark the 4th time in the last 5 days that Trump has criticized McCain, who succumbed to brain cancer last August.
Now, Dominic, there seemingly is 2 primary criticisms that Trump has. One is the dossier. And of course, Trump's version of this is completely fabricated. The investigations had already been opened before McCain gave the dossier to the FBI. The other point Donald Trump takes great issue with is he couldn't repeal, and mostly repeal because there was no replacement plan, couldn't repeal your Obamacare. And John McCain embarrassed him, wounded him mortally, apparently, on this topic, Dom, to the point where 7 months after his death, he's still dancing on the guy's grave.
It's terrible.
And he did it today, and we watched in real time. We were watching some of the speech in, Lima, Ohio, and Trump did the old Caesar and effectively mocked John McCain's thumbs down. McCain voted against the repeal of Obamacare, and it was perhaps one of the last courageous things the old maverick did before passing. Had to come back with cancer to vote on the floor, and he voted to help the American people retain some semblance of affordable, accessible health care. And Trump would, of course, hold that against him.
Because, of course, it went against what Trump wanted. Let's hear a little sound, Brian, while we have some time here. Cut number 97. I'm going to go out of order here just a bit. Trump on McCain. Never liked him much. 97.
So I have to be honest. I've never liked him much. Hasn't been for me. I've really probably never will.
The man has deceased, Trump. If you didn't like him, I'm not clear there's really anything, if he even cared, that McCain could do to earn your love. I don't think it's possible. Let's continue on. Trump trashing McCain on the vets. 98, please.
McCain didn't get the job done for our great vets and the VA, and they knew it. That's why when I had my dispute with him, I had such incredible support from the vets and from the military.
And, of course, what are the real issues? Cut 99.
A fake and phony dossier. Do you hear about the dossier?
Yeah.
It was paid for by crooked Hillary Clinton, right? And John McCain got it. He got it. And what did he do? Didn't call me. He turned it over to the FBI, hoping to put me in jeopardy.
Do we have time for 100? Let's do the last Trump cut on McCain. This is just egregious. Cut 100, please.
And I gave him the kind of funeral that he wanted, which as president, I had to approve. I don't care about this. I didn't get thank you. That's okay.
What?
Dead guy didn't thank you?
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Didn't feel properly acknowledged because you didn't wreck a war hero's funeral?
And then, of course, he says he doesn't care, but of course he cares. That's why he's bringing it up. This
For
man
the fourth time in 5 days
is nuts.
Who are you, George Conway?
I wouldn't want to be George Conway either. I don't want to be anywhere near Kellyanne Conway. How do you think that sex life is?
Angry. Come back with us. Sex. More Devil's Advocates. Phone lines open. 844-967-2789. The poll question, is Donald Trump despicable? I think the obvious answer, yes.
Want to be more presidential? Tweet the Devil's Advocates at Devil Radio.
Microwaves that turn into cameras, etc.
5-9, your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything.
I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor.
If making my detox public is going to help somebody, I'm all for it. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth. A message from Truth, the Ad Council, and ONDCP.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance, reminding you that when you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com. Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
GTG, BRB, OMW, be there in a few. You may think that these kinds of texts are fine because of their length, and you can easily send them at a stoplight. But no, answering one text can take your attention away from the road for 5 seconds. And traveling at 55 miles an hour, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Make good decisions. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing.
Welcome to our good buddy, Congressman Mark Pocan. Mark, in some small part, this little radio product, the entire rationale for buying a radio station was opposition to Scott Walker. One person's telling me, be humble, Crudy. Take a day and just be humble. And another person's telling me, no, dance on Scott Walker's grave. So, Congressman, I've always admired your sage advice, sir. What should I do? How should I react to this?
We should waltz, we should polka, and we should two-step. We should be dancing on this right now. To your credit, and I do want to give you guys credit. In Milwaukee, we have seen a shift, especially the suburban areas, from when we had just conservative radio to having you guys there. We have seen a shift in that area, and that's important because I think when people hear ideas, we do better. And I want to thank you for being there and doing what you do.
Hashtag Walker bashing.
Bye, Felicia.
For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. A man who was found sleeping in the Fine Arts Building at UWM was shot and wounded by campus police yesterday morning. The Bucks beat the Lakers last night, 115-101. They go to Cleveland tonight to take on the Cavaliers. The Brewers picked up veteran reliever Josh Fields yesterday. Opening day is 1 week from tomorrow. And two of the biggest names on the Packers roster have parted ways with the team. Clay Matthews has agreed to a deal with the Rams, and Randall Cobb is joining the Cowboys. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison tonight, cloudy with a slight chance of rain, lows in the low 30s. Tomorrow, cloudy in the morning, sunny in the afternoon, highs near 50. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. The happy hour continues. The crazy trade, it continues. And Dominic, Donald Trump is not alone in his McCain bashing. He's got an ally in this.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
Someone else is McCain bashing, and this name may sound familiar to you, Dominic. It's former Milwaukee County Sheriff David A. Clark Jr.
Oh, no!
David A. Clark Jr. tweeted out a retweet. He shared an article, Real Clear Politics. Grant Woods, John McCain gave Trump dossier. Former Arizona Attorney General Grant Woods, a Republican and friend of the late Senator John McCain, said the deceased senator immediately delivered the infamous, and that's where the article, the little, part that pops up when you share it.
No,
but is what David A. Clark Jr. had to say. John McCain's hands are dirty. Yeah, he's covered in soil.
He's in the ground.
He's a snake. Dems and Lib Media only like him because he's a rhino. At Real Donald Trump is right. McCain is a, all caps, rat bastard.
You serious, Clark?
Yeah,
what?
David A. Clark calls
literally dancing on his grave.
John McCain, Senator John McCain.
A rat bastard.
A rat bastard. It
is pitchfork and torches time in America.
According to this, it was about 16 hours ago, and it was shared out by Daniel Bice at the Journal-Sentinel.
Oh, what an ass. Not Daniel Bice, David A. Clark Jr.
They've both been guests on this fine show.
I like Bice more than Clark. Clark, what do you... I mean, why does he... He's just on the edge of insignificance? Is that why he's jumping in here?
Well, he got fired by the Trump PAC. You know, he's trying to suck up to the former, boss? The traitor-in-chief that he's hitched his wagon to?
Wow.
You know, this cowboy, talking about David A. Clark Jr., doesn't have, a lot of cows to rustle anymore. Can't even ride, the county horses round?
All hat, no cattle.
They hire usually good people.
Not
Yet
really.
somehow
they go to jail?
David A. Clark Jr. couldn't even meet the standard of the Trump administration.
Right. How
Rejected
bad?
For a job with the Trump administration.
How bad do you have to be to not be able to get into this administration?
I mean, who turned him down? Kushner? Concerned about his security clearance, perhaps?
After the Russia trip that Clark went on?
Yeah, Clark may have his own Russian collusion issues.
There are pictures of David A. Clark Jr. and Maria Butina.
And David Alexander Torshin. Well, hell, there's pictures of Scott Walker and Maria Butina and Torshin at the NRA summit. Anyways, more from Trump.
We have some.
No, it's been a panpalea. Is that a correct usage of the word?
Panacea?
A plethora. Would you say Trump has had a plethora of...
I think he's feeling the pressure a little bit. When a guy says, I really don't care about this, but, and then brings it up, I mean, I don't believe him. I think he's cracking from the pressure.
Now, what
did you say I have a plethora?
A plethora?
Or a panacea? Now, George Conway, apparently the husband of Kellyanne Conway, crazy Kellyanne, she must be crazy. She works in the Trump administration, seemingly with other options available to her. But Conway tweeted out what the MMPI, maybe I'm talking about the wrong one, but it was the Registry of Psychological Disorders.
George Conway, her husband, yes.
Yeah, who did I say?
Okay, I just want to be clear.
Yeah, the husband of Kellyanne Conway was tweeting out, and it was some sort of narcissistic...
definitions of these issues.
Disorders that he would accuse Donald Trump of suffering
Well,
from.
that's one characterization.
And Kellyanne Conway was asked, do you agree with your husband? No, I don't. I don't agree with my husband. And Donald Trump certainly does not agree with her husband. And Donald Trump, in fact, felt it necessary to do a little tweeting back, right? Do you recall any of this?
I don't have the tweets, but
I thought you were going to do
I do have Trump
tweets.
sound talking about Conway today.
Well, let's go there then.
All right, let's hear it. Donald Trump commenting on his advisor. What's Kellyanne's role now? Presidential advisor's spouse? I mean, what a weird dynamic going on right now. Imagine
White House counselor Kellyanne Conway's husband.
I mean, if your boss was telling you that your spouse is a whack job, what would you say? Brian, cut number 86, please.
I don't know him. He's a whack job. There's no question about it, but I really don't know him.
Well, if you don't know him, how can you say he's a whack job?
And your wife, overall, pretty supportive.
Cut 87, please, Brian.
I think he's doing a tremendous disservice to a wonderful wife. Kellyanne is a wonderful woman, and I call him Mr. Kellyanne. The fact is that he's doing a tremendous disservice to a wife and family. She's a wonderful woman.
And I believe we have, I'm sorry, that's not. You have reaction from Kellyanne Conway, Brian? Do you have that available? Kellyanne responding to this comment from Donald Trump. Let's play it.
Very transparent, very available president and White House when it comes to keeping you up to date on his thoughts. You think some people's tweets are great and the president's aren't, depending, I guess, on how they track with your own ideology and goals. And I would respectfully say that's not the way to read Twitter. Giving weight to whomever agrees with you or whoever allows you to have a fun reaction or even a cheap shot. share those concerns. And I have 4 kids, and I was getting them out of the house this morning before I got here and talked to the president about substance. So I may not be up to speed on all of them.
Well, let's get you up to speed, Kelly.
All of the president's tweets at her husband today or yesterday?
That was yesterday versus today. He called your husband a whack job. Now, I'm not clear, but I'm pretty sure, Crudy, if we started talking about each other's spouses that way, we'd be getting into some pretty heated arguments.
Well, I use that characteristic. I describe you as such to your spouse. I really look at her as more of the ally in this. But
here's the question. We talked about the tweets, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have Donald Trump. So you're going to look through Donald Trump's tweets. You better be prepared because there's a lot of them. But he made reference to what? George not getting a job. Wanting a job.
That he was jealous.
He was jealous because he didn't get the job. Do you have something?
President Trump, from the Hill. President Trump blasted George Conway, the husband of White House counselor Kellyanne Conway, as a stone-cold loser on Wednesday who is jealous of his wife's success. George Conway, who questioned the president's mental fitness for office this week, is a husband from hell, Trump said in the morning tweet that took the internal family feud to new heights. Trump said he barely knows Conway, who has become well known for his tweets ripping apart the president. Conway once lived in Trump World Tower in New York with his wife, who served on the condo's board. The D.C.-based attorney also was considered for a job at the Justice Department before withdrawing from consideration.
What? That whack job?
Which he said was because of his opposition to Trump. Now, here's what Trump tweeted. George Conway, often referred to as Mr. Kellyanne Conway by those who know him, mostly it's you, Trump.
Only him.
Is very, all caps, very jealous of his wife's success and angry that I, with her help, didn't give him a job he so desperately wanted. The president wrote, I barely know him, but just take a look. A stone-cold loser and husband.
Loser, whack job.
From hell.
And what, the president claiming that it was he and his wife, George's wife, Kellyanne Conway, who denied George, her husband, the job that he so desperately sought?
Now, before we talk about that, George Conway did respond via Twitter in 3 words. You, period, are, period, nuts, period. And he retweeted Donald Trump saying, mean things about him. But Dom, you brought it up. The Raw story is reporting apparently there's evidence that Conway turned down the job.
A letter dated May 31st of 2017 addressed to the president, the White House, Washington, D.C. Dear Mr. President, I am profoundly grateful to you and to the Attorney General for selecting me to serve as Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Division of the Department of Justice. I have reluctantly concluded, however, that for me and my family, this is not the right time for me to leave the private sector and take on a new role in the federal government. Kellyanne and I continue to support you and your administration, and I look forward to doing so in whatever way I can from outside the government. Most respectfully, George T. Conway III, C.C. the Honorable Jeff Sessions, Attorney General of the United States.
So mostly Mr. Conway has decided his role is to tweet out for the sanity of the nation.
Yes.
At his wife's boss. I mean, the Christmas party, that's got to be a lot of fun.
Right. Let's get some callers in. 844-967-2789. We have some more Trump, but I think you get the gist. It's our pal Betsy. Hey, Betsy, welcome back. What do you got for us today?
Oh, you guys, you have a great show. Just awesome. The greatest radio show ever.
And you have wonderful taste in listenership.
I know it. I've been told I have good taste. Not so much in men, but all right. Let's not go there.
I know Mrs. Salvia has that very same problem. And apparently Kellyanne Conway as well.
Oh, my God. You know what? You cannot make this stuff up. I just want to just remark a little bit on how absolutely despicable this thing is in the White House to attack Senator John McCain. I mean, again, I just, he's saying, look over here, don't look and see what Mueller's doing. This is just all, again, just keeping people off the, the eye, the prize. The
shiny objectism, perhaps, Betsy? Kind of try to keep them over here, don't look over there.
Exactly. It's just, again.
Hey, Betsy, you know, Trump met the press today, showed up with a visual aid, a map of the Middle East, apparently from election night, and, the before and after. And before, it had all the ISIS-held territory, and after, apparently there's no more ISIS-held territory. Mission accomplished, or so claims the piece of paper that Donald Trump walked up to the media in a press row. And not only that, but Trump wouldn't take all the questions. He just paced up and down the row, and randomly he would ignore some questions. He would take some questions. But Betsy, quite frankly, he's losing his marbles right in the public purview, right before our eyes. And, it seems troubling to me, and I know to you, but Dom seems quite pleased about the whole circumstance.
We're all going to hell, Betsy.
Oh, my God. I'm telling you, I don't know how much more our country can take, and I know it's going to take a lot more, but, how bad is it going to get?
It's going to get a little bit worse before it gets better, Betsy, but, your calling us makes our day a little bit better. Thank you so much. 844-967-2789.
Betsy, only 639 more days of the Trump presidency. January 20th, 2021 will be Inauguration Day, perhaps for Bernie, maybe Elizabeth Warren, Beto, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Uncle Joe. Hell, I'd take any of them. I'd take you right now. Gwen Moore, you got my vote. Just run, Moore. Gwen. Just run.
Do it.
I tell you what, we got one last segment left in this show. If you want to be a part, you better start dialing right now, 844-967-2789. Don't let the crazy train leave the station without you. Once again, 844-96-PARTY.
This is part of the resistance and the obstruction.
The sea was angry that day, my friends. Like an old man trying to send back soup in a deli.
You're presuming that all the information you have there is completely factual.
I got about 50 feet out, and suddenly, the great beast appeared before me. I tell you, he was 10 stories high if he was a foot.
Well, he's historical. They're hysterical.
All right. You want to get nuts? Come on. Let's get nuts!
He did not object to sashaying across the floor in the East Wing when the president called him and whispered in his ear.
I was in the pool! I was in the pool!
Well, that's one characterization.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
As humans, we ask ourselves all kinds of questions. But what if we were forced to ask ourselves a question every day that affected the outcome of the most basic things, the most important things in our lives? The question is, what is your sexual orientation or gender identity? And the answer is the difference between keeping your job or getting fired. The answer is the difference between staying in your home or getting evicted. The answer is the difference between receiving medical treatment or not. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against people based on their answer to this question. LGBT Americans have the right to say, I do, but they don't have the same basic rights as everyone else. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
Once again, the American public has some reading to do. A 29-page indictment today. Americans need to take a look at page 6, paragraph 20, and here come those important 8 words: to interfere with the 2016 U.S. presidential election. That is it.
Jim, I'm going to make a confession on behalf of the panel. Dom's not going to read the indictments.
Come on, maybe.
The Devil's Advocates. Political commentary from the back of the class. 60% of the time, they're right every time. Dom and Cruz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Last segment of the day. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates. This goes out to all you deadheads out there. Bob Weir in town. Looks like this place is going to smell like a skunk later on. Hell, it might smell like a skunk in about 10 minutes. 844-967-2789. We got some callers, but I want to blast out some of the last sound we have from Trump today. We'll get to you callers in a moment.
Be patient.
Trump regarding the Russia investigation. It seems like he's had a change of heart.
Wait, let me guess. No collusion?
Oh, of course there's no collusion. Well, there's collusion between, the media and Russia.
And John McCain and an illegally paid for dossier that Hillary Clinton financed. And if the dossier doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Crooked Hillary.
Trump, the collusion delusion.
Trump on the investigation. Let him see the report.
I don't mind. I mean, frankly, I told the House, if you want, let them see it.
I think we have an answer.
That's a new take. Release the hounds. Release the Mueller report, unredacted in all its glory.
Trump today, before getting on the helicopter to go talk trash in Ohio about John McCain, cut 81.
We'll see what the report says. Let's see if it's fair. I have no idea when it's going to be released.
Russia.
Let's see if it's fair. Let me guess. If it exonerates him, it's fair. If it does not, it's unfair. Keep going. Cut 82. Mueller never got a vote. What?
I had 206 to 223 in the Electoral College. 306 to 223. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. I just won one of the greatest elections of all time in the history of this country, and even you will admit that. And now I have somebody writing a report that never got a vote. It's called the Mueller report. So explain that, because my voters don't get it.
Nor do Hillary Clinton's 65 million voters to your 62 million voters, why you, through the wisdom of the Electoral College, became the president, and she, the far more qualified and less corrupted candidate, is wandering in the woods looking for Scott Walker currently.
Let that report out. Let my people go. Cut 83.
Let it come out. Let people see it. That's up to the Attorney General. We have a very good Attorney General. He's a very highly respected man, and we'll see what happens.
Not like the last two losers I've worked through.
Let's wrap it up. A couple more from Trump on the Russia investigation.
Man gets appointed by a deputy. He writes a report. I had the greatest electoral victory, one of them, the history of our country.
Top 45.
Success, tens of millions of voters, and now somebody's going to write a report. Who never got a vote.
I mean, he's repeating himself now, right? I mean, we've already heard this. Isn't that what your drunk friends
Trump
do? They tell you the same story
over
and over.
Man.
I love you too, man. The final Trump cut from the day. Then your calls, 844-967-2789.
I got 63 million votes. And now somebody just writes a report.
Hillary got
I think
65
it's ridiculous,
million.
but I want to see the report. And you know who want to see it? The tens of millions of people that love the fact that we have the greatest economy we've ever had.
Yes, that's entirely relevant to whether or not you colluded with Russia in a treasonous, traitorous fashion.
Billions and billions and
Billions
billions
and
and billions
billions.
and billions and billions.
Let's get to some phone calls. Arlene from Milwaukee, you are up. Thanks for calling today. Arlene, what do you have for us?
Hi, Arlene.
Pastor in the White House he's a whack job, okay? He needs to, we need to get him out of there as quickly as we can.
Yes.
But I want to see what you guys think about what's Mr. Walker up to. He moved to Milwaukee, and now you hear David Clark is back in town.
What?
And
I didn't hear that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Was he hanging out at Victor's with Mark Belling? Or where'd you see him, Arlene?
Victims.
I don't know. Somebody somebody told me they saw him, and then I heard on the radio earlier today. I think Earl had mentioned it or something. But, yeah, and so what do you think? You know, I'm a little concerned that Walker's he's pulling this thing where, oh, yeah, I'm living in Milwaukee, and, you know, people have seen him around town. And I'm thinking he's up to no good. He's going to try and run again in 22. What do you guys think?
Well, he has stated as much, Arlene. He has every intention of either running for U.S. Senate should Ron Johnson decide not to run for re-election. Going to be deferential to Ron, he said. Otherwise, he plans, Arlene, to run for governor again against Tony Evers. And he said as much to the national press. It's at thehill.com again today.
And in the meantime, he's going to try to tread water by living in some subsidized housing.
Some donor-subsidized
right?
condo, Airbnb style.
Being on the speech circuit.
Where apparently there's not enough people that demand the speaking engagements for Scott Walker to make a living, because now he's got another side gig besides the driving of Uber at night. Apparently, he's working for some constitutional convention, which I strongly suspect is a Koch brother, funded front. They're trying to convince enough states, I think they need 38 states, to have a constitutional convention and open up Pandora's box, and then all hell breaks loose.
I got nowhere else to go!
And of course, Scott Walker's just trying to stay relevant every day, tweeting out his ham sandwiches. I mean, the one day he tweeted out...
Don't forget the emojis.
And lots of emojis.
Lots of emojis.
Loves the emojis.
New phone.
Days, Arlene. But the one day, Scott Walker, who has no, day job, right? Near as we can tell, he tweeted out a picture of his lunch. Apparently it was like National Ag Day. And he said, 2 ham and cheeses on white and mayo for me today.
Gross.
But he had them in a brown bag. And the joke, as far as I'm concerned, Arlene, is he doesn't have a job. So he must have, packed the lunch in the kitchen and then taken the brown bag out to the dining room to take his picture of it for Twitter, just to stay a skosh relevant, just a skosh.
Joe from Stevens Point, we can give you 60 seconds, man. Keep it quick. What do you got for us?
Hey, Joe.
Hey, dudes. I actually am starting to feel a little more hope with the Democratic Party. But, I think to Betsy and everybody out there who's kind of freaking out on that, and Trump, when you listen to that guy, we got a real problem on our hands. I think we should slow walk any sort of Russia or any of that stuff till after the 2020 elections, because, Trump beat us before. And if we aren't really pushing through and having vigorous policy debates, we're going to, we could figure out a way to lose again, but slow walk that thing and keep that as an option for just in case that chump wins.
You know what I would say? Bernie Sanders, #Feel the Burn. He will decimate Trump at the ballot box. Just one man's thought.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you, Arlene. Thank you all for listening. Thank you especially to Congresswoman Gwen Moore, a fine guest in studio. And, of course, Wisconsin State Rep David Bowen, a newly declared candidate for DPW chair in the great state of Wisconsin. Good luck to you, sir. We'll talk about voter ID. It's a necessity April 2nd at the polls. And otherwise, we're going to the bar next door for a beer. If you're thirsty, join us there for one. Have a great night, everyone.
And I'll tell you why I can't put up with you people, because you're bastard people.
Explain that, because my voters don't get it.
Because you're bastard people.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also